see an ever-changing news and computer terminology. Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 145 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our third batch of games from issue 58 of Zapped 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were surprised by SimCity, bored by Ballistics, and slowed down by Spitfire 40. This week, we conclude our look at the games in February 1990, thank God, along with what was also lighting up our cinema screens that month. Graham, it's been a long month. A long, long month. Have we left the best to last?
As we grapple with the last few games of February 1990, while they all seem to stab at us and spit their last breath at us, we grab an inflated rubber donut and head to the choppy and dangerous waters of somewhere or other as we float along trying to ensure our tubes remain decidedly unpopped in Toobin. And we head to a ghostly house in full spectrum colours and resolution on a mission to jump around and get massively annoyed with the pain in the arse Speccy-like game Spooked. I always wondered why Phil Collins and co were not found in that Genesis cave in Star Trek 2. Maybe they were the only CDs Kyle had left on SETI Alpha 5. Certainly would explain his anger. While I leave you with that to think about, we check out the excellently pixel-painted caves and caverns of yet another game of Mekon-related mayhem with Dan Dare 3, before finally grabbing some bananas and shoving them up the tailpipes of the game designers that thought it would be fun to mix a film license with a multi-event game engine in the shonky Beverly Hills Cop. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye February. Like a dog that swallowed a bag of Lego bricks, you delivered little but a series of painful, jagged stools. Good riddance. The longest month. It's been the longest, considering February's the shortest month, it's the longest month.
I know. That's a weird paradox. That's a weird...
It is a paradox. It is a paradox. It certainly is. Worth investigating.
Yeah, it is. You know, at the time I thought splitting this month into 4 weeks was a good thing. I have since rued that decision and thought we should just powered through in a week.
To be fair, it's been a good thing for my sanity because I've had to sort of space out my horror, and it has. It's helped me. It's eased the pain. It's the irony is that we've condensed the most games into the shortest month over the longer period. The time breakages alone are worth it. And then the clocks went forward at the same time. We broke time.
Oh no, my pineal gland is expanding and going all from beyond.
So it's all happening. It's all happening. You've gone full from beyond. You've got a third eye. Sounds rude, but I didn't mean it that way.
Well, just this is what it is.
It's just very pleased to be recorded.
It just pops out every now and again when I eat an eyeball.
Yes. Try maybe avoid that, but yeah. Yeah, all good. Just as a note, by the way, I've been listening to some unusual podcasts and things. I just wanted to put these on your radars. This isn't a paid endorsement or anything like that. These are just because every now and again, because we're coming to the end of February, there's a couple of things I reckon you should have on your radar. So This is my podcast radar. So I would definitely recommend that you give the Osbournes podcast a listen because it's really funny. Even if it's just to hear Ozzy Osbourne clearly deranged. But it's quite good.
Okay.
You're never quite sure if he knows what he's doing, what he's saying, and where he is at any given moment. So it's
probably
quite.
Not.
But he's obviously got there's a lot of good stuff going on in that. I've been listening to that. There's an excellent podcast that was recommended by our patrons, which was to do with the mysterious people that made the Jack the Ripper adventure game on the C64. The mysterious group of women in a Victorian schools based out of Ireland. It's a really good podcast. We'll put all the notes in the show notes in there because there's like an investigation. There's an entire backstory, which is a real rabbit hole to go down about the people that made that game were also running a school that was kind of like rejected technology and that they were basically like running Victorian style. So they even had no electricity or power apart from obviously for the Commodore 64, which is odd. But it's hard to explain it all, but it's a really strange series of occurrences. And this investigation / podcast is an amazing deep dive into that. It gets kind of weird and kind of brutal, but it's definitely I definitely recommend that, which I'll put in the show notes. And finally, our friends at what is nostalgia goggles, but they do something called safety goggles, which is like little mini podcasts where they just test the physics and science of just everyday things. And they did a particular one on how tall Mario should actually be based on his ability to jump and what the physics of that actually are. And it's really funny, and it's really worth listening to. And it made me laugh and made me think quite a bit too, which is always good. But it turns out, I won't spoil it for you, but it doesn't turn out how you'd expect.
Should he be taller or shorter? What about Luigi? Luigi's tall.
Well, you'd think they'd be tall, but because they do these great dispelling things. They did one about Father Christmas, and if you listen to that, it'll ruin Santa Claus for you forever. Because it's based on how much physics he would need to go up and down the chimneys of the world. And there basically isn't enough energy in the universe to power that kind of thing that he would. It's really funny. And then they did another one on whether you can melt an egg. And this, these sort of things appeal to me. Because the guy's a scientist. I think he's a chemist, actually, with the other guy in the podcast. So it's all they base it on the kind of real science of it. And it's really quite funny. So definitely go listen to that. And they're only little short things. So.
Cool. There you go. So I haven't listened to any of those.
Well, there you go. Go do it.
I will add them to my list of podcasts that I do listen to. There you go. Cool. If you want to support us, though, just get this out here before we get to the end.
Do it.
You can do that by going to our Patreon. Let's just say it out now. So it's patreon.com/Zapped to the past. It's less than a pint of beer. Well less probably these days. Maybe a sandwich. It's something like that. So come and join us. Get the ad-free podcast early and everything like that, and join our Discord and stuff like that. Or buy us a Ko-fi on ko-fi.com/Zapped to the past. Or subscribe, Twitter, YouTube, all those kind of things. You know the deal. That's that out of the way. Should we get into some games?
Let's go for it.
Let's go. We've got four left for February. Four for the fourth episode of our February coverage. So let's get into the first of those. And that one, Graham, is Toobin. I've been Toobin. So it's another arcade port. Started out as an Atari Midway game in the arcade, was then licensed by Tengen to Domark to make the home port. Okay. There must be easier ways to something to get to market. There must be. You do it. You do it. Tell you what, on potato. Yeah, we're not licensed to. We're Atari Arcade. Oh, God. Tengen, what did you do?
Yeah, just go down to the next door's office. Hello, yes, we can do it. But yeah, I'm sorry. That's just the way. They're in the same building. I can't do anything about that.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm knocking on my own office. I'm asking myself.
Yeah, so if you need the bathroom, you can't go into that one because that's Atari Arcades. We just can't use it.
Absolutely, no. And I won't go in the next one either. The Paperboy's been in there. But then this was handled by Teak Software, Graham.
No, not Tiki.
We've seen them before. Last week, in fact, or the week before, when we suffered the horrors of Chase HQ.
Yeah.
But this one, different people. It was coded by Sean Hollingsworth and Mike Talbot. Sean had worked on Death Wish 3, Auf Wiedersehen Monty, Pac-Mania.
Gremloid, then. It's a bit of a Gremloid, is it?
Yeah, it'd come from Gremlins, I think, yeah. He worked on the Flintstones as well, Terramex.
Okay.
Mike Talbot, though, according to Lemon, only worked on Storm.
Good music in Storm.
Which nothing to do with him, I think, wasn't it?
No.
The graphics here are by Mark Patente. I don't know how you pronounce it. And the music is by Matt Furness.
Okay.
And there you go. That's the team. So what is Toobin? Well, I'm going to read you the back of the box and see if that makes everything clear. This is the major coin-op hit of the year, Graham.
Ooh.
Catch the action with Toobin, the world's first inner tube race. Join Biff and Jet.
Okay.
Now, Biff in the arcade is spelt with one F, but they spelt it with two on the back here. And Jet. The Tube Dudes, as they cruise the world's roughest rivers. Check out the rapids, stay one jump ahead of the crocs, and arm yourself with tin cans to biff any creeps that get in the way. Paddle down river, avoiding logs and branches that'll pop your tube.
That sounds too painful to be true.
No one wants a tube popped.
Ooh, no, that sounds horrible.
Watch out for swamp monsters and fishermen. Then swish through checkpoint gates for mega points. It's crazy fun all the way to the hazards of the whitewater challenges. So grab your joystick and get paddling with the Rad Lads if you want a taste of the action. Rad Lads sound like something from Newcastle, but...
Does.
Toobin.
Why,
the coolest game on the streets today, but it's a game about rivers. Why didn't they say the coolest game on the water?
Error.
It's not on the streets, is it? This isn't about the streets.
They wouldn't go very far if it was, would they? Unless they rolled themselves.
Just be sat on a tube. What are you doing? Toobin.
Toobin. I'm Toobin, mate. Wow, okay. Doesn't look very exciting.
So anyway, this is essentially a downward scrolling endless paddler. Well, not endless, but it goes on for a while, where you must make it through several sections of a river to reach the end and amass a high score. It's an arcade game. And it does what it does. The C64 version, unlike all the other versions, doesn't seem to have any kind of loading screen.
No.
So that I could find a reference to any, but all the others do, and they vary in quality. I should say that. It barely even has a title screen, really, because when the game loads, we're essentially at the start of the track, start of the river. Yeah, and it's got the word Toobin bouncing up and down in the middle of the screen in chunky, medium res sprites, and they're fairly ugly as well.
They're a bit.
At the bottom, we've got the UI. It's got a bar for some, and above that, there's a bar for some scrolling text. Just a single character line gives us the credits, and then underneath there for the UI, there's two rectangles, one red in the bottom left and one green in the bottom right. They are for player 1 and player 2 respectively, telling us their name, their score, their high score, and what objects they have in their inventory. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. You get individual high scores as well, which is quite interesting. There's a problem with it. Well, I'll come to the high score bit in a bit. Okay. Pressing fire on either button. There's little to do with it. There's no options or anything. It's just go. Just press the fire button.
Like an arcade.
Either button gets us started, and a little jet or biff appears depending on which joystick port you're in. You can play 2 players as well, so that's quite good. So Jet and Biff, they've lost a bit of detail from the arcade, considerably smaller. But I guess the game does resemble its arcade parent. The music, it's annoying a bit, but it kind of suits the game. It's a bit sort of upbeat and boppy, and so it's all right. It's not terrible. Controls are simple enough. Well, they're simple, but it's up to speed up, although this makes you go down the screen. That broke my head.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
I was like, you press up to speed up, but it moves you down, or it moves you in the direction you're... It just didn't feel right. I think
it's paddling.
It just doesn't feel right. Down is to slow down and go up screen or backwards. It doesn't feel right.
No, it was a bit weird. Took a bit getting used to.
Yeah, and left and right is to paddle that arm to turn you around, so you paddle to the right to turn to the left, I think it is. And yeah. It's paddling, basically. So, you're paddling in the water. As you progress, you can pick up objects. You basically just sort of go into them, and then you can throw them. They are such as cans and the likes, cans, balls, all kinds of stuff. And you throw them simply with a tap of the fire button. It's very simple controls. It's just 4 directions and fire. That's it. The C64 version is slightly different from the arcade game, though. The arcade game had a series of courses that got progressively more difficult with sort of longer tracks, and you go through different sections. The C64 version just has one long course that is made up of most of the sections from the arcade game, just all strung together. So in that respect, it's different. So it doesn't have like course 1, course 2, course 3.
No.
It's just one.
No.
But it's got all the kind of constituent bits from those bits just strung together into a longer version.
Stitched together, yeah.
So the C64 version starts you off in the canyons, I think it is. We're heading to the forest. Then there's the weird red rock section with sort of weird monsters and stuff floating about.
Strange.
Then there's the industrial part of the river where you're going through kind of sort of concrete sort of sidings and stuff. Then you go through the ice level, where there's penguins attacking you from the sides. We've got a blue rock section. Again, I don't know what that bit is, just blue rocks. We're going back to the jungle, and then we've got the industrial part again, then the red rocky section before getting to the finish. So there's 5 different sections, I think, 5 or 6, 5. Sort of a couple of them repeat before we get through to the finish. The gameplay doesn't change, okay?
No,
you're just basically scooting downwards throughout each of these levels. There are ways to increase your score. There are gates that you can go through. These will have a number on them from 1 to 4. 1 is the widest of the gates and 4 being the narrowest to get through. If you manage to get seamlessly through a 4 gate, then I think you receive a 4 times multiplier briefly for any points and stuff you get. But should you hit the poles, then it will reduce to 3, then to 2, and then to 1. Essentially, it will just reduce down to 1 because you can't get off the poles once you've hit them. You're just stuck on them. So you need to be a good aim to getting through them. That's the key to getting good scores, basically high scores, is to get through those multiplier flags with them at 4, as high as they can possibly be. There are also beach balls and things to collect. And there are a plethora of things that are just waiting to, as it says, pop your tube. There are fishermen who are sort of casting out into the sea with their sort of floats. Don't hit any of them. There's There's natives firing blow darts at you from the trees. There's penguins diving off. There's a crocodile that comes down from the top of the screen if you're going too slow. There's snakes. There's spiky plants. There's all kinds of stuff. There's just loads of stuff. There's mines as you get further on. There's weird monsters in the red areas. It's very strange at times, but it's just avoid everything you can. Apart from the stuff that you need to collect. It's quite hard to tell what's what at first. You do lose lives just because you're like, oh, can I collect? Oh, no, I'm sort of disappeared and I've lost a life. Should you run out of lives? Did you have 3 lives or 4 lives? I couldn't quite figure it out.
4, I think.
It's 4. But you've got 3 continues as well at your disposal. So essentially you've got 12 lives.
Really?
I guess, yeah. But once they're all gone, it's game over for you and back to the start. And that's it. That's Toobin. The game of speeding down a river on an inner tube. There's not much else to really say about it. It's just the arcade game. There's a problem though in that, like I said, we've said this about other arcade games as well. There's no high score table. Always a big oversight, I think, in an arcade conversion. You have a high. I know they've got a high score, one high score, but you wouldn't be able to put your name in. You want to? Yeah, I don't know. We saw this, in other games we've seen, older games, high score tables just not on. So yeah. The arcade game came out in '88, but this feels like a C64 that kind of predates it. Feels older.
Yeah.
It's weird. From the music to the visuals to the way it controls, it just feels like a game that's not a 1990 game. Doesn't feel that way. The scrolling, I guess, is nice enough. It's got a set scroll if you're just floating your way down, bumble. But it gets quicker if you push towards the bottom, and it gets a bit faster. Although there is a little bit of the lurch between slow and faster scrolling, so you're like, but it's not terrible, and it's still pretty smooth. So that's fair enough. The sprites and backgrounds, though, your main sprite is okay, I guess, in a C64 way to represent the arcade game. It just looks old. Looks like a 1986 sprite before they got into high res stuff. But the 2-frame animation on his hands is a bit fast. It's like he's flapping those hands. They're going to come off. That's some hand wrist action I've not seen in a while. Good lord, he should be going faster than what he actually is. And the rotation of the sprite is actually okay. There's multiple sort of frames of animation as you go around and turn around, and you can head in different directions. That's fine. And it lets you fire at angles and stuff, and it zips about at a decent pace when you push forward to go down. It does actually go quite fast, and because I suppose there's not that much on screen, but it all works as you'd expect. It's not bad. The other sprites are similar. The simple style, thick black outlines and everything. It kind of looks like a Gremlin game, doesn't it? It looks like an old Gremlin game.
Yeah, maybe.
It has that sort of a bit of a Gremlin feel about it. But you can kind of tell what they are. There's just a lack of any shading on them or detail. They're just very flat. They're just there. They're just basics, like my first sprites. I don't know what it is. The backgrounds, though, well, they're really poor. The side graphics are I thought they're quite poor. Those initial sandy parts, they're just some yellow and brown and some lines. Yeah, I'm like, what's going on? They get a little better in the jungle. And the canyon bits are okay, but the red and block and ice parts, they don't look good at all. The industrial bits are okay, but nothing. It just looks a bit rough around the edges. It doesn't look like a game that's had much care and attention taken in the visual style. It's all very solid colours, little in the way of recognisable terrain. Then we have the sound. The music is twee and constant. It's those tunes, and there's a few of them as you go from place to place, but none of them last more than a minute or so. And they'll sort of loop around and they'll just do their thing and then be gone. And that's all it is. It's annoying. What is annoying though is that I had to go on the arcade game, and it's an Atari game. So as we know with all Atari arcade games, they always have great sound effects. Yep. Always. It's the things you remember from the arcades. They're just those Atari noises. You can't a human mouth cannot do them. But you know what I mean? If you know those totally noises. Yeah, just pressing credit 1, credit start was always that sort of boing noise, and you've got that great noise and stuff. Yeah, totally. They're all missing here entirely. There's not even an attempt, and maybe they thought, well, we can't do them, so we're not trying. But there's no sound effects whatsoever, none. It's just tuned. That's all there is. Yeah. So it's a great shame. Because those things are always what bring the Atari games to life in the arcades. They're the things that you kind of play. And you think about the paperboy noises. You think about, like I said, just putting in a credit in an arcade game was like a boing. You got that noise. Cool. They're just gone completely here. It's a shame because all you have then is the music. Well, it's not that great. It could be better, but it certainly doesn't sound like something that should be done in 1990. As again, it all feels old. This feels like a game from the mid-'80s. As conversions go, like I said, it feels older. It looks and sounds dated for 1990, but it's not terrible, I guess. And I guess it is a passable version of Toobin that does resemble the arcade game. The issue for me is that, once again, I was never a fan of the arcade. So I thought this was an okay port of an average game. It's what we've said about a lot of Atari arcade games.
Yeah.
Take away a lot of that sort of razzle. You took away a lot of sound, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, the underlying gameplay's not that great, is it? It just lacks any ambition, really. Any attempt to make it feel really feel like the arcade game. But I guess there you go. At least it's single load, which is one good thing about it. And I guess that's why they've done just the trains, but they could have split them up, and they could have attempted to do the courses, I think, and follow the model of the arcade. I don't think that would have been too hard. You've got all the bits. You just put them into different sections, because there's not exactly a smooth transition between ice to sand to concrete. It's just just change now. We've just changed. There's no smooth sort of graphical change or anything. But one thing I did notice, though, is it's not the Amstrad version. If you had a look at the Amstrad version, that's awful. That's dreadful. That's like it's like it's the Chase HQ thing reversed. We got a decent version of their version of Toobin is just dreadful. I can imagine. So this is, to quote, I think I've said it before, the guy from Chernobyl. It's not great, but not awful. It's all right. It's just Toobin, but it's an okay version. It's probably, but I can't get any enthusiasm up for Toobin.
No one's asking you to,
and I can't. What did you think for a ramble?
Toobin ain't a bad game, but this is bitty. It felt underproduced to me.
Yeah,
like they did what they had to do. Nothing has any impact, because that's the way the sounds are, and the feedback in Atari games is based on the sound and little pop-up things going, well done. That's all lacking. So it's devoid of the atmosphere that creates, which makes the game kind of a quiet, slow journey on an inner tube, which isn't that great. Graphics, I thought, on the most part, were okay for what they are. They're an 8-bit version of the arcade, not necessarily the greatest version, but a version. The controls were expected. They were manageable once you got used to it, but the whole thing is underwhelming. And there's so little feedback to the player about progression, about you've done well, which you really need in a game like this. When you go through the little gates, you need a little da-da-da-da. Yep. Or you get well done at the end of it. You need all of that. If you don't have that, it's just floating down a river, which isn't very good. Games like this, as you exactly point out, they kind of rely on that. They need that. This for me had the same vibes exactly as Paperboy on the C64. It looks like Paperboy, and Paperboy looked like it, but it was just missing all the things that made Paperboy what it was. The same is with Toobin. Looks like Toobin, but it's missing all the parts that make Toobin fun. So it's Toobin shaped. That's all you can really say. But other than that, just very underwhelming. So expensive underwhelming as well. Certainly didn't deserve 75%. I'd have slapped 50% on this. It's about half good. So that's it. It's the equivalent of the effort. It took half the effort that it was required. If it had the full 100% effort, it would have looked like the arcade more, because it isn't doing anything that's practically difficult on a C64, is it? It's
just scrolling vertically and moving some sprites about.
It's no different to a top-down scroller or a shoot 'em up. It's no difference, is it?
No,
not really. No, it's not.
No,
and we've seen loads of them. So no, Toobin or not Toobin? I should have started my review off with that. Really, not Toobin.
We should have done. Really, yeah, yeah. I say two in the bin with Toobin.
No, it's not 75% good. It's half good, and it's just Final thing I would notice about this is that I agree with you completely. It's just these arcades. Does anyone have fond memories of playing Toobin? Maybe there are people out there. I don't have that memory.
I have a friend who loves Toobin.
I imagine there must be fans of it.
He's got to make his own controller for it at one point.
And I can sort of see it with all of the things that make it feel good. But let him play the C64 version. Let's see how it feels then.
I'm gonna see him in a month or two, so I'll sit him down with it. How'd you like Toobin now? How'd you?
Yeah, just say, and he'll just go, too bad. And you can say, yes, good play on words, mate. Now get out. You don't even know who you are.
But this is my
You're
house.
Not welcome here.
You visited me.
I said, get out. And don't go in your bathroom for a couple of hours. Or do.
Because I filled it with inner tubes.
Yeah, too bin, too bad, too boring, too loads of things.
Yeah, too over here.
Yeah, what it ain't is too bin.
Yeah, there we go. That's Toobin. It's not 75%, is it? No. Let's move along. We've still got one game this half, or this part, and that, we just put the willies up us. Because, Graham, it's over to you to be spooked.
Yes, let's all get spooked, shall we? This has some leanings into a popular ghost-busting film around this sort of time, I feel, or ghost-busting pair. Anyway, This is Spooked. It's $2.99, so it's budget. It was on Players software, not their expensive range, I don't think, but it's Players anyway. Its creator was Tom Prosser, but the conversion is by Ian Gray, because this was a Spectrum game back in 1989 originally. Mm-hmm. The musician is Gerard Goulet, otherwise known as Jez, who comes under Sonic Graffiti on HV SIDS. And I'll mention him a special mention because the music on my version was crazy messed up. So I went and sought it out on both Lemon and played it on there and on the SID player, and it actually plays fine. So the music isn't the jumbled mass of crazy sounds that appeared in the game I played. It is actually a coherent tune, albeit not necessarily the greatest tune on earth. There's a story to this, Adrian.
Oh.
A story that I can enrich you with right now.
Do it.
I'm going to.
Do it.
So this is, and I'm going to read this verbatim, and I thought about trying adding voices in, but I'm not going to do that because it'd just be stupid. No. Business has been pretty slow lately, but that's hardly surprising. When most people don't believe in ghosts, you can't expect a ghost extermination service to go very far. Makes sense. Fortunately, you're able to bring in a little money by doing some part-time mercenary work on the side. I'm sensing a great tremor in the force, Adrian.
What, mercenary?
You prop your feet on your desk, dislodging some of the accumulated sweet wrappers, and settle down for a snooze.
Someone's read the Vendetta blurb.
Suddenly, the phone rings. With lightning reflexes, you pick it up and utter the following well-rehearsed yet still pathetic lines. Gerard's Ghost Catching Services. What do you want? You got the dough? We're on the go. If there's a ghost in your home, you won't be alone. If something tried to kill you, what do you want us to do? Why didn't they rhyme the last one? Why? The last 4 lines are, if there's a ghost in your home, you won't be alone. Something trying to kill you, what do you want us to do? Stupid poetry like that angers me in a way I can't explain. I feel like that was written by that ex-singer of ours, Adrian, and it makes me very uneasy. You know exactly what I mean. And when we sleep together, it's not love that we make. You can never be genuine because your feelings are so false. It reminded me of that. Anyway, I'm trying not to think about it. The voice on the other end of the line is hardly audible. It sounds like that of an old man, near or possibly after death.
What? And
it says the following. We have some ghosts for you. 255 Pine Road. Please hurry. You grab your equipment from your closet, switch on your answer phone, and climb into your ex-army Jeep. 255 Pine Road is an old house in the oldest part of town. That's why it would be an old house.
It could be a new house in the oldest part of town.
It could. The house is flanked on one side by an abandoned churchyard. The church itself burnt to the ground by devil worshippers. It took a very serious turn very quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
On the other side stands the remains of a chemical plant, which was the horrific scene of a gas leak, which led to the death of all its workers.
Jesus.
Behind the house, the dark silhouette of the notorious Alcatraz prison can be made out.
Well, we in San Francisco?
Yeah, floating clearly in the water as well. The old prison was closed a few years ago after an inmate riot, which left 26 prison guards dead. So this took a dark turn. Most of the prisoners were also massacred when the authorities stormed the building. Across the road in front of the house stands the remains of an Indian burial ground, which was the scene of many sacrificial killings, now used by the Hit Kicks clan squad and other devil worshippers for their bizarre rituals. The house itself is an old stone building built in the early 70s, Gothic style. Its windows boarded up, its rafters home to 1,000 bats.
Bit of a fixer-upper then.
Just a unique fixer-upper. Upon reaching the house, you knock loudly 3 times. The old oak door swings wide open. You poke your head around the corner and cautiously walk inside and look around. At that moment, the door slams and locks itself. You hear the words echo around the cold building. Sucker, we have you now. That's a combination of me laughing and the stupidness. So that's it. That's the story. There you go. Anyway, I'm going to read the game blurb because this is the only bit of information I've got about what you're meant to do, and so I've got this is really it.
Right.
It says the game. Firstly, choose your preferred control method. Enter the keyboard. Blah blah. We'll skip that. As soon as you start the game, a small worm should appear from either left or right of the screen. It doesn't. You should try and catch it. You can't by trapping it against a wall, which isn't there. Once you've caught the worm, another will appear, which it won't, and you should try and catch it, which you can't, in the same manner, which won't work. Avoid the evil skeletons, which you can't, by jumping over them, which you won't. Ghosts are best avoided, which is impossible, by standing completely still, which you can't. Once you've caught at least 2 worms, which is very difficult, you can check your inventory by pressing enter. That's space to you and me.
Yeah. Yep.
You should try to find a purple cauldron, jump onto it, and you will be able to collect a lightning spell. Yes, that's true. That will happen if you've done all of those other things. Pressing fire will now dispatch any unfriendly ghosts or skeletons. Yes, it does if you do that. As you explore the castle, you will come across other ingredients, combinations of which will provide more powerful spells. Ultimately, your objective is to create letter spells. These may be exchanged for 3 bees from a green cauldron, 3 moths from a blue cauldron, or 3 beetles, maggots, or butterflies from a yellow cauldron. With some letter spells, you'll be able to enter the marble gateways depicted by 2 ancient pillars, where you will be forced to play hangman against the spooky old man, who will select one of 128 words. You have a time limit of about 4 minutes before you lose a life. This time limit is reduced if you get hit by a nasty. However, it may be topped up at any time by touching one of the egg timer icons scattered around the castle's 384 rooms. That's right, 384 rooms. To help the first time or younger player get to grips with the game, Spooked features a built-in sensor, the scariness rating, which adjusts the game difficulty depending on how well you play. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah, does it?
Bullshit. 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 I'm calling... sorry. Got something in my throat. Bullshit. Yeah, it's bullshit. It's utter bullshit. It doesn't do that, you liar. All right. So that's the Spooked blurb. That's it. And it took me a while to find that, believe it or not. And that is a little bit Amstrad related, because it's not easy to find the information for the C64 one for good reason. So this is a Spectrum game, really. Amstrad maybe, but a Spectrum game that's made it to the C64. And it looks exactly like it would on the Spectrum, doesn't it? This leaves the graphics high-res and detailed, I guess, but empty-looking and somewhat bland in colour. All the pale colours are here. Yellows, cyans, Spectrum colours, generally. You know, the 8 colours of a Spectrum.
Yep.
Hundreds of screens of high-res backgrounds await you in this game. Lots of jumping about, trying to catch worms and other things to make up spells, and some falling, lots of falling and deaths and falling because you're dead. You control the character of Gerard with the joystick, left and right to run, up, left, up, right to jump or fly. It's because it kind of feels like a jumpy fly. In every other way, a classic flick screen tradition of these sort of games, you know, an old school arcade adventure type thing, really. Think Nodes of Yezod with a wizard looking like a Ghostbuster, I guess. Looked like a wizard to me. And you'll be close. The main screen of the game is the logo at the top left and some indication of spells and inventory as well, but you can press the space bar to bring that up. And then the rest of the game is underneath that, which is mainly where the sort of the platforms of the game are, the Nodes of Yezod style, Nodes of Yezod, and 1,000 other games that we've looked at that look exactly like this. Mm-hmm. Indeed, we've played quite a few of these over the years. Now, whenever I say that, every game that we've played like this escapes my memory. But that's because I don't really remember them, because they're not very memorable. The nearest thing I can think of to this is something like Spellbound, just off my head, where it has that kind of look. So it's just wandering around in kind of an environment, jumping around different screens, jumping on top of platforms. There's that kind of thing. We've seen a dozen of these. Mm-hmm. But Nodes of Yezod is another one that's similar to this in the sense that it's the kind of way you sort of navigate around. So this is all of those things. With almost no exception, there's been some stupid design decisions that have really affected the way this works. So any game really that makes you start with no weapons and you have to go and collect something to get the weapons when you're being constantly attacked is a stupid thing to do. And I don't believe for a second that this learns and it goes, oh, they can't play it. There must be some kind of novice. Make it easier. But utter nonsense is that. Mm-hmm. You need to catch those 2 worms to create the lightning spell so you can shoot. So you've got to go and collect 2 things, which are very difficult to collect. You're constantly being attacked by things from angles that you can do nothing about, and you can do nothing about them. You can barely avoid them. Jumping around means that you'll bounce off the scenery, which means you'll probably bounce back into them, or they'll hit you and they'll bounce you off somewhere. So not only can you not control yourself, and you are constantly under attack, and it's very difficult to collect the worms. Even when you've collected them, you've then got to find a cauldron, which you've got no idea where it is. Come across that, hope you haven't run out of time while you're doing all this, and then that will give you the lightning spell. But I can tell you now, you'll be dead long before you get there, because you'll be constantly... Well, it's not so much that you die, because you just kind of flop to the floor and lose time. But at the same time, that keeps happening. And it's really, really, really annoying because it just keeps breaking the game flow. You can't get anywhere because you'll soon find yourself crumpled in a heap on the floor. You jump in the air, you'll catch something midway through, crumple in a heap on the floor, because by this time you die midair and then you'll just drop to wherever you can drop to. Now, sometimes that means you'll drop straight down. Other times you'll drop down 6 or 7 screens. Then you've got to go back up those screens, not knowing where on earth you are because you don't know where you are because you haven't been making a map or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So you've got to try and catch those worms to make the... All right, so let's say you even do that. So your aim here is to move through the screens and try and capture those worms who may or may not appear and may or may not get away from you, because sometimes they appear on the left and there's a wall, sometimes they appear on the right and they run off. So you can't catch them. Nor can you catch up to them, it seems to me. Nor can you catch up to them before you'll get hit by something. You only need 2 of them, but you'll encounter enemy ghosts and skulls that shoot at you as well and knock you down all the time. So no matter what you do, you can't avoid them. And only when you've got the lightning does it make it moderately easier, but even then it doesn't really help. So then, like I said, you've got that stun animation. Now, your timer is indicated by a little sand timer, egg timer that's on the top right of the screen. If that gets empty, well, that's it. I think you go back to the start. Now, I don't know if it's game over, or whether you just go back to the start. But either way, that's what happens. So you just, you stop.
Yep.
You can try and avoid the baddies by jumping, but it won't work out how you think it will because everything here bounces you off. So if you happen to just get it slightly wrong and you bounce underneath one of the platforms, and you won't know that they're there because when you jump, say you jump upwards, then the platforms on the screen above you will appear and you might hit them because you won't have known they were there. So now you think, I've got to do that. But by that time, they've bounced you off at an obtuse angle and you might have landed somewhere else. And now this is a problem that occurred in Note of Yesod in that this means that you need a map. If you have a map where all the platforms are, then you'd be able to sort of navigate your way through this. It would make sense. But when you're trying to find your way through a maze, essentially, of 384 screens, when you've got no idea where the platforms are in any of those, and the damages can be severe. So if you jump at the wrong thing, you can end up nowhere where you need to be. And it's really difficult to navigate your way back to places because trying to jump onto the platforms is really hard because of the way that you over jump. So you jump when you push straight up means you can't jump straight up onto a platform from underneath and then land on it, which would be handy if you could. You have to jump always from the side at an angle, which means you'll always overestimate the jump. So half the time you'll try and jump on a platform, but you'll jump over it or you'll bounce off it because you won't jump too far. And it's always working against you in this, always. So, like I said, it just always feels like the game's trying to just do you in. And that's another stupid another stupid design decision, isn't it? Bouncing off the scenery, stupid. Bouncing off in opposite directions, stupid. Enemies that kill you in midair and make you just drop down 10 levels, stupid. And when you do all of those things, you're so frustrated at this point. You think, why am I even doing this? What was the point? And then because you've kind of forgotten what the whole point of the thing was. Because what is the point of it?
Don't know.
You go into this castle, you're supposed to be busting ghosts. For what purpose? It's just it lacks the thought that's required in some of these things. And then, of course, you've got the fact that the baddies in it will spawn all over the place. And they literally spawn all over the place. Sometimes they spawn off the bottom of the screen when they can't even get you. It's wild. Yeah. There seems to be no logic to where these things are occurring at all. It's just completely thrown together. So, nah. I don't think since Cauldron 2 as a game frustrated me with so much indirect bouncing and annoying drops and time losses. And that takes some doing with Cauldron 2. I know you can top up your time because you can find mini timers and you have to stand on them and it tops it up. But you've got to get on those mini timers. They're on little platforms. I can tell you, you'll overjudge it and you'll jump over them. You'll get hit and killed 50 times before you when you get near it. And each time it takes your timer away. And they're scattered around in really annoying places, and you're not going to know where they are. So chances are, before you can get to one, you'll be hit by so many enemies, you'll be dead 50 times before you can get there, or they'll cause you to fly off somewhere where you can't get to it. Also, and by the way, remember that you've got to find your way to cauldrons to make the spell. So even if you do pick up the other things in this game, you still got to find your way to a cauldron to make them. And there's no way, unless you make a map, you've got no way of knowing where those cauldrons are. They're scattered all over the place. There's no logic to things. These sort of games require you to be able to go back to a place where you can do the magic thing that you need to do. So there needs to be like a starting point where your cauldron is. And that's your starting point. That's where the cauldron is. You go and get things, you bring them back to base, you mix them up, then you've got you. So scattering cauldrons around the game is a nonsensical decision in a game like this because it means that you're just kind of wandering around all the time. I get the idea is that you've got to explore, but being underpowered in a game like this makes the starting point needlessly frustrating. And then after all the bouncing and everything else, it just becomes even more painful. Those aren't good words, are they, for a game that's reliant on you to explore by jumping and seeking and finding things? Those are the most annoying things about the game. Mm-hmm. Graphics, Spectrum looking. But I suppose you could describe them as okay. They don't look terrible. And in fact, the pace of the game's pretty fast, considering. So even though this is a Spectrum port, it doesn't have Spectrum slowness and bugs. It's obviously been C64ized at certain points somehow. And they are Spartan and Spellbound-like, but they kind of work. And the FPS is okay. Like I say, no colour clash, really, which we've seen in games like this. No slowdown as such. There's not much going on the screens either. No. Though there are the occasional enemies on the screen, they are painfully annoying when they appear, but there's not many of them. But they follow you around, and if you jump, they jump. If you move, they move. You can't really get away from them. Nope. So the game is too much of a pain in the arse to enjoy. And even if you get the lightning bolts and work your way around the screens, your experience will be painful and unrewarding. There's loads of screens to flip, fall, and jump through. Loads of mini platforms to aim for, but you'll miss and bounce off. Loads of ghosts and things that will kill you. And a high degree of certainty that you're going to get pissed off within about 5 minutes. I can tell you that for a fact. The sounds in the game are sparse. The title screen music, somewhat twee and bouncy, but it was okay, but it wasn't anything special. But this game feels very lame for 1990, even at budget money. And the controls and the experience will leave you more fooked off than spooked off. But what did you think?
No.
What, Ghostbusters? What do you want?
Yeah, what do you want? Stop ripping off our game. It's 1990. and half-baked and annoying Spectrum ports that look like Spectrum games are not how I want to spend my time. They're not. This flick screen rubbish can flick off. There's so much annoyance, as you rightly said, there's so much annoyance in the design here. So much. The multitude of rooms all look the bloody same. They all look the same.
Yep.
So there's 380 of them, but this is room A, this is room A1, room A2. Oh, yeah, okay. We've moved the platform slightly. Oh, bog off. Some boring platforms and a black background. I mean, it's just a black background. They're just like, put some characters. The idea of collecting stuff to make spells is okay if you could collect those things. As you say, it's supposed to be right there. It took me ages to find 2 worms and then get to a cauldron to do anything. Then I ran around. And then when I was shooting, it just fired off at a random angle.
Yep.
And then I ran out and I was like, oh, my patience. It's a pain in the ass to do this because the mighty jump and bounce off objects is back again here. Like it was never away. It's just stupid. Seriously, the game you want to go back to is Underworld. It's where this all starts. Underworld and Note of Yes, like you said, and that bloody Camelot Warriors, if you remember that.
That's it.
But they were 4 years ago, or probably more in Underworld's case. So why anyone thought resurrecting that control method was a good idea is just beyond me. Why? It's been proven in tests to be rubbish.
It is.
I mean, yes, it all may move fast enough, but that's because there's nothing on screen.
Yep.
There's naff all on screen. What is on screen is both faster than you and will just knock you out time and time again in the most awkward of situations where jumping makes you bounce off something, makes you bounce back and bounce, and you just get stuck between objects. And then that thing which is killing you will just kill you again. And you're like, oh, God's sake. I never liked these games. Never, ever. I cannot for the life of me understand why this was ever ported to the C64. I'm happy for Spectrum and Amstrad owners to have this. You keep it. I don't need it. If I was in a playground in 1990, if I was 12, 13, they went, oh, look, we've got it. You keep it. It's fine. It's fine. I'm going to go play Sacred Hour of Antiriad again. A bog off. I want spooked by this, just angered. And the cover of this game is another example of having nothing to do with the game in any way. It's obviously just, what is he? Oh, he's a part-time mercenary Ghostbuster. Gotcha. Hang on a minute. He's a wizard. Oh, he's not played the game. No, just rubbish. This was rubbish. I hated it. 67% it got. No, I mean that's the dreaded 2/3, isn't it? It's the 2/3. Yeah. Well, we don't really know what to say about this. Just give it 2/3.
Be honest.
Yeah, just be honest. It's rubbish. It's a rubbish idea from a rubbish game that should have never been ported to the C64. Yeah. We don't want it. Keep it.
Too hard to play.
Just have it back. Here you go. Sod off with it.
Yeah.
Spooked. Didn't like it. Don't like it. Don't want to like it. Just predisposed against these games. We had a spate. What was that other one? Captive. We had a spate of these massive jumps bouncing off things. Just like you said, Cauldron 2 was probably the sort of. Well, I mean, Cauldron 2 had cool looks and great sounds and well designed and was a really brilliantly designed castle, but the controls were just. But when you have none of those things, just the annoyance.
Cauldron 2 was what, 1987?
Yeah, but you've missed all the good stuff and just got the crap stuff. Well, didn't like it. Well, let's just go to a break. That's it for this part. 2 games, Toobin and Spooked. Wow. Anyway, we're going to go for a break. We'll come back. We're going to talk about some films, hopefully some good films for us to enthuse about that came out in February 1990. So please do stick with us. Ooh, Spooked. And we are back. We are back for films. What have we got going on? What were we going to the cinema to see in February 1990? Well, on the 2nd of February, we finally got a new Stallone film in Lock Up.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, big hair.
Yeah. I went to the cinema to see this, but I'm pretty sure I did, because I just go see anything at this point. It was like, yeah, it's on, I'm going.
Yeah.
But I can't remember anything about it. Not a single thing. I watched the trailer and I was like, Donald Sutherland's in it?
Yeah, he plays the wicked. Don't you remember the scene where he puts him in the electric chair and Stallone puts Donald Sutherland in the electric chair and he gets him to confess and he's like pretend he's going to electrocute him in the electric chair at the end.
Oh, vaguely.
I might have just ruined that film for everybody, by the way, but inadvertently.
He looked just like as a villain, and it seems to remind me that this is the period of time where everyone's trying to everyone has been inspired by Alan Rickman in Die Hard. and we get this spate of these kind of sort of hammy camp villains. It's like John. Oh, he's in Third Rock from the Sun. The old guy is in.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
When he's the villain in Cliffhanger, is that?
Yeah.
There's just loads of these villains now. They've all got to be a bit sort of. Oh.
Yeah.
They're like they might as well just come in twirling mustaches.
Yeah, they do kind of. It all builds up to Hannibal Lecter, doesn't it? And that kind of.
Yeah, well, Hannibal Lecter's around this time, and I think Rickman. It builds up to Rickman in Robin Hood.
Yeah, because. Yeah, actually, there is a lot
Prince
of that. In a lot of evil. Yeah.
And but when Donald Sutherland walked in, he went, he says, I paid my debt. Oh, not to me. It's like, oh, God. It's like so much ham.
There's a bit of a thing about prison wardens all being, brutal crazies, because that's kind of a theme in a lot of American films.
Yes.
So there's loads of them where they do that. And in fact, I think there's even Alcatraz, even the one with Clint Eastwood and Alcatraz, the portrayal, Patrick, what's his name? It's the guy from The Prisoner, isn't it? I forget his name. He plays the warden in that, and he takes all the paintings off that guy who then chops all his fingers off in the workshop. And they've always been portrayed as kind of, the evil villain types in this thing. So this is no different to that. I remember it from someone getting killed in a gymnasium in the prison, but I can't remember how or why. And I just remember somebody getting weights. I think they pick up the barbell when they're doing a bench press and just drop it on their neck, essentially, and break the neck with it. It is pretty gruesome, actually.
Pretty brutal. Yeah. If you didn't fancy that, you could have gone seen The South, or to give it, I think it's French name, Sir, which I presume is South.
Yeah, I guess.
I had no idea about this.
No, I didn't know. And it looked saucy in the old cover. And
yeah,
it was a bit saucy. Yeah, it did look a bit saucy, that.
It did.
The trouble is, they're either one of two sauces at this point, aren't they? They're either ketchup or brown sauce. Not really. They're one of two saucy types. They're either the Basic Instinct saucy type, that kind of
which
saucy.
Which we'll get in a bit.
Or they're the Red Shoe Diary saucy. So they exist in that kind of frame. And then you've got the European version of that can fluctuate between arty saucy and saucy arty, depends on how you want to be it.
Saucy arcy. Arcy saucy.
Kaiser saucy. Saucy arcy.
Kaiser saucy. And we're just like that.
Tasty.
He's on your burger.
There should be a Kaiser saucy. Someone should be making that right now.
Yeah, but you won't be able to see it. Where's my sauce?
Exactly.
Oh, just like that. It's gone.
That's the advert waiting to happen, isn't it? Get it quick, because like that, it'll be gone. Come on. We don't work in marketing, and we should.
I've always said I'd be great in marketing. I hate marketing, but I'd be brilliant at it.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. I mean, come on. Kaiser saucy. Come on. Ketchup, Heinz, you know what to do.
Yeah.
We'll expect to check in the mail.
It's a bit limited, though. So what's your follow-up campaign? It's gone.
It's gone again. Yeah. Can you imagine the guy trying to buy the ketchup? He's got kind of a limpy arm, because he has to have a limpy foot, doesn't he? He's like, what's he called? Something, I can't remember the character is, but yeah.
It's Verbal Kint.
Verbal Kint, yeah, because also, you remember he has that weird way of shooting the gun sideways, doesn't he? So you'd have to sort of pat the ketchup bottle from the wrong angle or something. So.
When you're fed up with the usual suspects, Heinz, Campbell's.
Exactly.
You need
See, right,
Kaiser saucy.
Just imagine a load of meatball-headed people in a lineup like on Unusual Suspect.
There you go.
Okay, there you go. Thanks, Heinz. Checking the mail. Thanks.
Yeah, please.
Thanks, Campbell.
8th of February. You could have gone seen All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah, Bluth, is it that one? Don Bluth on him.
With Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise.
Wow, okay. Well, they were quite at the double act, weren't they? They were very popular from the Cannonball Run movies.
At the beginning of the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, and Burt Reynolds, I thought, was always cruel to Dom DeLuise. He just kind of slaps him about and calls him names, and he's quite mean to him. Yeah,
probably.
And he's the same in this, and it's animated, so they must have been doing it for real, and they thought, we better animate that. Because it is. The Burt Reynolds animated dog is quite mean to the Dom DeLuise animated dog. So they clearly are like that in real life, and they were like, just animate. Watch them and animate them.
That's just their shtick.
Yeah, that's their way.
I've never seen it, though. Have you seen it?
Yeah, at this point, I have to say, Don Bluth was obviously one of the last great Disney animators, wasn't he, at this time? Because Disney were sort of changing at this point a little bit and weren't having a lot of luck with animations, but they were also experimenting with other stuff. And so this kind of filled a little bit of a gap. Very old school cell-based animation, drawing the cells and everything. So it's got a nice look. I have to say, the animation is very old school, sort of Snow White type animation, that kind of classic. But the subject matter, you know what? Never watch this film with kids, and if you want to dry, there won't be a dryer in the house for months. So if there's a film called All Dogs Go to Heaven, never watch it at a kid's party, ever. Ever. Rule number 1. That, and if there's a few other films, don't know. Let's not watch Watership Down at a birthday party.
Yep.
No one's going to like that.
Plague Dogs, that don't go down well either.
Rabid. I thought it was about rabbits. It's not, is it? It's not, though. I didn't know.
It's not. 9th of February, if you didn't fancy that, you could have gone and seen Steel Magnolias.
Not my demographic, that one. I'm not its demographic and never will be.
No, probably. A young beautician newly arrived in a small Louisiana town finds work at the local salon, where small group of women share a close bond of friendship and welcome her into the fold. So it's Dolly Parton, Julia Roberts,
there's loads of them.
Sally Field.
Yeah. Sally Field. There's about 9 famous women in it.
Yeah. So the top cast is Shirley MacLaine, Olympia Dukakis, Sally Field, Julia Roberts, Dolly Parton, Daryl Hannah.
There you go.
Yeah. So it was. I mean, it's quite an important film for the time. You don't really get those kind of sort of female ensemble pieces very often. I suppose Colour Purple, maybe another one, but obviously different subject matter. Somewhat.
Yeah.
But not me.
Ensemble,
not for me.
ensemble movies. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't watch this at the time. No.
No, not me. It wasn't for me. This.
What probably was for us though, Graham, was Best of the Best.
I can't believe this even got to a cinema in the UK, did it? Was this straight to video?
It should have been. If anything says straight to video, this does. It's a team from the United States is going to compete against Korea in a Taekwondo tournament. This team consists of fighters from all over the country. Can they overcome their rivalry and work together to win? Can they?
Can they?
Can they? I don't know.
With the help of James Earl Jones, they can.
Absolutely. Clearly, his paycheck from Darth Vader had run out, so can't understand why else he'd be in this film. Jesus, and he's got Eric Roberts with just hair that I've never seen.
His hair's wild. I can't describe that. It's like it's an advanced mullet, but I'm not sure what kind of advance.
I expected to see an 8-bit surfer from California Games go through it.
It is wild. It is a wave of hair, isn't it? That.
It is.
Crazy wave.
But if you do want a good laugh, then just go to IMDb, just search Best of the Best and watch the trailer, because I don't think you'll see a more 80s trailer in your life. It's quite something. There's some great acting from Eric Roberts in it. Amazing acting. And obviously it's his hair. And it's got at the end, just when you think the trailer's over, oh no, it's got a knockoff Eye of the Tiger tune.
Yeah, that stupid thing.
Called Best of the Best. It's dreadful. But it's worth a laugh. I've never seen it. Have you ever seen it?
Some time ago, I remember sitting through it with a friend of ours who won't be named, and they were raving about it because there was just a spate of these films, wasn't there? Loads of them like this came around at this time.
Yes.
We can't be far from Bloodsport. We can't be far from Kickboxer. I think we've got big Kickboxer.
I think we've had them, haven't we?
I think we've had that. But they're in that slew of films. There's loads of them that came around that time. Yeah. And this has the advantage of having Darth Vader in it. I wonder if he slips into Darth Vader lines. I bet he does. I find your lack of dough disturbing. But yeah, and I don't know, Taekwondo, it's the Korean martial art, isn't it? I don't know. I had an old friend that used to call it "take my dough," actually, because he was convinced it was a bit of a money grab. But I don't know. I don't know enough about it, and I don't want to anger any Taekwondoers. I'm sure you're all very kicky, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah, we don't need any of that around here.
No, go kick your way to freedom. Do it.
Absolutely, especially with those sound effects from the trailer.
Woo. That's powerful kick, isn't it? It sounds like it snapped his neck in one kick.
Yeah. If you didn't fancy that, you could have seen Family Business.
I didn't know anything about this. It was just I looked at it, it's like I don't remember it.
Sean Connery, Dustin Hoffman.
No.
What's his face from Ferris Bueller? I forgot his name now. No. What's his name?
Ferris Bueller.
Ferris Bueller. Yeah, him.
Yeah.
It's just dreadful. Matthew Broderick. That was it. An ex-professor offers Adam, whoever Adam is, £1 million to get some plasma from a high-tech company's lab. Adam asks his criminal grandpa, assume it's Matthew Broderick then, for help. Can they convince Adam's now honest dad to join? So it's basically a family of thieves for one last big job.
It sounds like a good premise for a film, actually, that does sound like a good premise for a film and a good cast, so I might have to go and check that one out.
Yeah. It's got... it reminds me of something else, but I can't think what. It's just one of those kind of ideas and sort of that cast. I think it sort of puts me... I don't know if it's aiming for like the Midnight Run vibe. That kind of sort of comedy. Or what was the other one? With Joe Pesci and Ralph Macchio, where he's the lawyer.
My Cousin Vinny.
My Cousin Vinny, yeah. I think it might be in that mould. I have a feeling.
It seems like it. I mean, I wasn't struck on all those kind of films. There's quite a lot of them. But I'm just be more interested to know which version of Sean Connery's in it. Because he is the many faces of Connery, isn't it? It could be any version of him.
Well, he's got terrible clothes. That's
Well,
what
he's
I
never going to
noticed.
be able to say the name of the film properly, so it's probably a good one, because that's the bit of the rule, isn't it?
What, family business?
Exactly. So the rule is if you can't say the name, it's probably good.
Probably is, yeah.
So
It probably
there
is.
you go. Yep.
I don't know if I've seen it. I think I might have done. I think my brother would probably have got this out on video and would have watched it.
I would imagine you must have. It's probably got to have been on your radar. It's got Dustin Hoffman in it. You love him.
I do. I'm a big Dustin Hoffman fan.
Yeah, he's good. He's good in that.
Ever since Kramer versus Kramer. I like that.
Yeah, he's good. I like him in Wag the Dog. He's very good in that.
I loved him in. I like him in Marathon Man.
Yes.
Very good
Well,
film.
you have to. Otherwise, he'll drill your tooth out and keep asking you if it's safe.
That's Laurence Olivier.
Yeah, but he's still doing it to Dustin Hoffman.
He is, yeah. But I like Dustin. Dustin's not going to do that to me. Dustin would never do that to me. Would you, Dustin? No. If you didn't fancy any of those, though, there's still more. You could have gone and seen A Dry White Season.
Never heard
Sounds
of
like
it.
a wine.
Yeah. It's one of those very serious films that I'd seen the trailer of and gone, that's just not for me. It's too serious.
Yeah.
Too serious.
So it's a white middle-class South African suburbanite with no interest in politics, agrees to help his black gardener out find his jailed son. His investigations opens his eyes to the horrors committed by the secret police and turns him into a target. Starred Donald Sutherland in a more serious role than his moustache twirling lockup turn out. Marlon Brando in his first film for about 10 years. First film for ages. Zakes Mackay, the gardener.
Okay. It's big names in there.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to be pretty good. It came out around
Imagine it is.
another quite a few. Well, there's a couple of other there was Cry. What was it?
Cry Freedom.
Cry Freedom. Yeah. And Beaker was around there, but so this sort of South Africa was being addressed, should we say, by Hollywood because of apartheid, and
Yes, it was.
and as we saw in the music section or the news section, Nelson Mandela just been freed and everything.
Yes, I think there was a lot of that, wasn't there? Those are the political interplay films were coming out at this point.
Yes. If you didn't fancy any of those, you could have seen The Kill Off.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
No.
No. So
Nope.
let's not. Couldn't say a thing about it.
No.
16th of February though, you could have seen Sea of Love.
Steamy.
Oh yeah, this is your other kind of saucy. Yes, this is Al Pacino, Ellen Barkin, and I did go to the cinema to see this. I remember going to the cinema.
Wow.
I remember it's very of its time. It's every cliche under the book. Basically, there's a singles ads killer. So somebody's
Right.
putting ads in the singles, and then the men are turning up dead. So it's a woman.
Okay.
They suspect it's a woman who's killing these men for whatever reason.
Okay.
And Al Pacino. So they put an advert in the paper to meet women.
Right.
And Al Pacino meets Ellen Barkin, and they have a steamy affair. But she's like, "Is she the killer? Oh, it's that." And so he gets sort of drawn in, and then his partner's like, "Oh my god, you haven't even trusted her for Prince yet, have you?" It's like, "She's not the killer." How can you be sure? Because I'm Al Pacino. But it's worth watching the trailer because Al Pacino goes from 0 to full Al Pacino in like 0 seconds when this guy pulls a gun. It's like full on shouty Al Pacino. It's incredible. It's like he's just stood there for one moment, and then the next is full on heat.
Okay, I might watch that. If he's anything like he's in The Devil's Advocate, I might have to watch that because he
No,
cracks me
it's
up every time I watch it.
It's a thingy. It's a bog standard mid to late 80s, early 90s serial, killer sort of cop thing. So
It's Basic Instinct.
Think Jagged Edge, Basic Instinct, Sliver, all those kind of things. It's that.
Yeah.
It's
Sliver's terrible.
It's in
It's a
that
terrible
mold. So it's one of
Yeah.
those.
Basic Instinct ain't a great film either. I watched it recently, rewatched it. It ain't good.
No, it's not. No, it's really
it
not.
really isn't. It
No.
really isn't. No.
23rd of February, Driving Miss Daisy.
I remember liking that at the time. Quite popular, wasn't it? Quite an interesting sort of harmless, fun tale with a sort of a darker twist in there, if you think of it that way. But I remember it being quite good.
Wait, I mean, it was very popular. It won 4 Oscars.
Yeah, there you go.
Best
I remember it
Picture,
being pretty
Best
good.
Actress, Best Writing, Best Makeup.
Mm.
And he got nominated. I think he got nominated for 9 out of 10. Won
Yeah.
loads of others, won BAFTAs. Yeah, it was very, very popular.
Is it Morgan Freeman in it, isn't it?
Yeah, Morgan Freeman and Jessica Tandy
Yeah.
and Dan Aykroyd, her son. So he hires Morgan Freeman to drive her around, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then it's those two.
Develop a relationship.
Develop
Yeah.
a
It's frosty at the
relationship,
start, and then they get, then it turns out they've got more in common than they thought.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was.
I feel like I've just spoiled it for everyone. You don't need to watch it now. I've just summarised it very succinctly. But
well,
it's one of those nice films. It's a nice film.
yeah.
It's harmless. It's nice.
It's perfectly fine, and it's about something.
Yeah.
It's about
Yeah.
differences and people growing together and learning that under the skin we're all the same. That sort of thing. If you didn't fancy that, then you could have seen Blaze.
You
Just
could
around
have-
a month off. This was Paul Newman looking old.
It is.
Yeah.
With a story that reminded me of First Lady of the White House from Amazon Women on the Moon. Meet me in the Lincoln Room in 5 minutes.
Yeah, because this is a middle-aged Louisiana. Middle-aged? I'm middle-aged, and he looks a lot older than me.
Exactly.
A Louisiana governor falls in love with a young stripper, which jeopardizes his political career and the radical policies which have made him a controversial figure.
Exactly. First Lady of the White House.
Pet house video. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's it. That's your films. It's not a stellar bunch, but
It's a February batch of films if ever I heard one. No.
yeah, I can't believe I went to cinema twice.
Yeah, and you didn't enjoy either time. I seem to remember you liking Lock Up.
At the time, it's a Stallone film, and it's probably fine.
Yeah, it's got some good Stallone moments in it.
Yeah.
It's got really big hair in that.
Well, he did have big hair around this time, yeah.
Yeah, his hair is big. Yeah.
It's not Rocky 3 big.
Yeah, it's not that big. Goodness me, it's not that big, but...
No. Never mind. Right, there you go. That's your films. We're going to take another quick break. We come back. We've still got 2 more games, crapverts, and I look forward to March. So please do stick around. And here we are with the last 2 games from February 1990. No more shall February 1990 be spoken of once these 2 are out of the way. And this is Dan Dare 3 to start with. Dan Dare 3. Dan Dare 3, the third and final.
Mate, that's not my Dan Dare noise. Whoa! Hey! I don't know why I did that noise then. I apologise to everybody. Dan Dare 3, you say? Whoa! Don't know what came over me. Wild.
Dan did by the sound of it.
I have got to stop drinking so much tea.
Third and final time that we will fill the shoes of Eagle Comics' Dan Dare. This is Dan Dare 3. The Escape. This was published by Virgin Mastertronic, developed by Probe Software. Coding here is by the ever-reliable Nick Jones. Nick Jones.
I work for Nick Jones. Graphics by Huge Bins and music by Haroon Tell. Oh.
That's a spicy array of talent right there.
It is.
So hopefully this will be good. Now, interestingly, the original design of this is down to Nick Bruti and one Dave Perry, who you might recognise the name of. He would go on to work on loads of classic 90s titles like Disney's Aladdin, Earthworm Jim, Cool Spot, MDK.
Oh, wow. Okay. That makes a bit of sense, actually.
Yeah, he's a bit of a sort of industry luminary for around that period. Anyway, I think he designed this on the spec. I think it came from the Spectrum as well. I don't know. It's weird that he was working there, but anyway, that's what he did. Anyway, back to Dan Dare. There's a story. Of course.
Of course there is.
And here it is, Graham. Here is the story of Dan Dare. The Mekon and his mutants.
The bastard.
The fate of all mankind hangs in the balance. The Mekon menace is back again, determined to conquer and dominate the human race. In doing so, the evil Mekon has vowed to wreak his vengeance upon his arch enemy, Colonel Dan Dare. To further his iniquitous plans, the Mekon is conducting a series of horrific genetic experiments, attempting to mutate a variety of life forms into an army of tree-like creatures servile to the Mekon. The experiments failed. The creatures were twisted and strange. What was needed to advance the Mekon's ungodly experiment was a human subject. And who better than the hated Colonel Dan Dare? The Mekon issued his orders. A gigantic scientific satellite was rapidly constructed. Manned by an army of loyal Treens, the satellite was set on course for planet Earth. Many months passed before reaching the Earth's orbit. Whilst their ship navigated the dark recesses of the universe, the Mekon and his scientists continued their horrific experiments, but with little success. No tree-like beings were created, and the weird mutant creatures formed were left to wander at will the corridors of the satellite. On reaching the Earth's orbit, a small army of Treens were dispatched to capture the unsuspecting Dan Dare. When he's lost the Colonel, I thought it was a trademark that you had to say Colonel Dan Dare. Their mission was successful. Seizing the Colonel, there it is, the Treens transported their prize back to the satellite where the pitiless Mekon and his team of cruel scientists waited. But the Mekon had underestimated our hero again. While the scientists are preparing the lethal serum, Dan breaks free from the operating table and, destroying his captors, escapes into a store chamber next to the genetic experimentation unit. Searching the chamber, he discovers a jetpack and sets off to explore the maze of corridors and chambers of the vast satellite. Luck is on the side of our brave Colonel. Entering a large chamber, he finds an escape shuttle powerful enough to accomplish the return journey to Earth, but the fuel tanks are empty. Dan calculates that he will need exactly 50 pounds of high-grade rocket fuel to complete the journey home. Undaunted by this catastrophe, Dan straps his jetpack to his back and continues his search of the Mekon's evil satellite.
Excellent.
And there we go. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's all good.
To keep dropping the capital C on kernel all over the place, so it's like, get it right, be continuous. But it's as stories go, it's a better written one than we've had a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's good old Dan Dare territory.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that's come from somebody maybe who writes for the comic. Maybe they've had some input into it, so it's it's not overwritten. There's no stupid metaphors. It's just straightforward. This is what's gone on, and it's got a lot to draw on. But yeah, so it's an okay story. That's not too bad. It sets up a decent premise for what we've got to do. The escape.
Exactly.
Those damn trains. All I can say. When the game loads, you get a nice title screen, which belies its Spectrum origins, with options to redefine keys, and some credits in very Spectrum-style colours. It's got those Spectrum colours. They're just you could use anything, really, can't you? On a C64, don't need them.
Yeah, don't need Spectrum purple.
No, but it does have stars twinkling in the background, and a solid, if not amazing, Hirun-Tel piece of music plays away. It's an okay bit. It's all right. It's not great. Stab of the fire button or pressing 1 starts the game, and we find ourselves in the shoes of Colonel Durr himself. Controls are simple enough, and indeed are identical to that which we saw and got annoyed with in Shark the other week.
Yeah, certainly just.
They're exactly the same. Dan can move left and right and fly upwards with up, but down is used to switch between weapons. And once again, I find myself switching between weapons as I just don't like floating downwards. So, did what it is. And fire, that shoots whatever weapon you have presently armed, fires off your smart bomb, whatever, or tries to use the object if that is what you have switched to, because you can have objects in your inventory as well that will flick to as well. So
you can.
Okay, so yeah, you've got a few. So pulling down, you got. It's that control system. You either get on with it or you don't. I just found myself trying to go down to get out of the way of stuff.
Yep.
And just flicking through stuff. I thought, oh, God. So the game itself is multi-level, multi-directional scrolling blaster, basically, where the aim is to make your way through to the Mekon, who's on each level, and nick the fuel you need to get off the satellite. That's essentially what you've got to do. So there's 5 lots of fuel dotted about these levels. You've got to collect all 5 of them because each is worth £10. Make it back to the original place where you started and blast off. Dead simple. Each level is made up of a series of screens that you need to traverse and populated by a number of mutants that need to be blasted. It's a fixed number of mutants as well. They don't respawn. Some do come back after certain points when you do certain things, but they don't. The ones that you kill, it's not just a constant spawn of them, so that's quite nice. So you can kind of sort of learn where they are and learn what weapons you go and where to sort of fire and shoot, and you kind of pick it up. You can learn these levels, so that's a little bit better. And because it's scrolling, that's the one thing this does have over Shark, along with a lot of other things, but it's that notion that you don't just go onto a screen and have instantly something kill you.
Yeah, exactly that.
Because it's a scrolling level, which is better, obviously. So that's all right. So Dan is initially armed with just a laser with 99 shots, but after getting rid of the first iteration of the Mekon, basically you just go across the right and fly around and shoot some stuff. Gets the Mekon, blasts him a bit, he blows up. He gains access to a computer. This computer, if you pull down when you're over this, you can buy bouncing bombs, smart bombs, extra lives, and refill his laser. You have a lot of money as well at your disposal, so you can buy a lot.
Yes, you can.
So I bought everything. It's like, yeah, cool. That's good. So when you've cleared the level, you need to head to the strange traffic-like structure and stand underneath it. So this is like you move around, you'll find this sort of traffic light, or not traffic light, sorry, lamppost-like structure. You stand underneath it and you pull down. This will activate the structure, and you will then warp to the next level. This switches the game to a 3D section, very reminiscent Master of the Lamps, Aliens, Space Rogue, where you navigate down through a series of oncoming squares. It's like you're going through like a wormhole type thing. Each time you miss one, you lose some health. So it's possible to fail these sections and lose a life and be put back to the start. It's not too hard, though. Don't last too long, and it's pretty simple. You might miss one or two, but it's pretty simple and easy to sort of navigate through this, and then you're sort of landing the next level. So the game itself takes up the top 2/3 of the screen. The UI takes up the bottom. This UI has the weapon you are holding in the bottom left. So it flicks through the weapons you've got by pulling down, as I said. It's got your ammo for it next to it, whichever weapon you have. Then it's your health bar. Then there's your score underneath it. Next along is your present jet fuel, which runs down as you fly about. And finally, your 4 lives, denoted by a little Dan icon or a cross if you have lost any. You can buy extra lives as well at the computer as well. So if you've lost a life, you can go back and buy one. It's kind of handy. You also carry with you a small lamppost teleporter with level 1 on it, which I think you can use to head back to the first level. when you want to go to... I could never quite get it to work properly, but I do think that's what you're supposed to do in order to buy more weaponry. So you can always head back to the opening level to go to the computer to buy more stuff, because there's no computers on the later levels that I could find anyway. So you want to be heading back there when you sort of kill or destroy a level, go back, weapon up again, and go to the next one. And that's what you do. The game doesn't have very many levels, though. Each time, as I said, there's 5 of them. Each time you wipe out a Mekon, might only have 5 or 6. Each time you kill a Mekon, you get £10 of fuel towards the 50 you need. But in a kind of weird twist, you've got to be quick to grab it, because the Mekon has booby-trapped the fuel, and you only have 3 seconds to grab it. And if you don't, then you've got to restart the game and try again. It says this in the instructions.
It's a bit harsh.
Yeah, which is a bit mean if you ask me. Because there's only 50 litres of fuel, 50 pounds of fuel in the game. You've got to collect them all. You can't miss one. I mean, it's right behind him, so you just go grab it. But I unfortunately killed him once by using the bouncing bombs when I was trying to take something else out. They bounced off and down and sort of killed him. And I didn't realise. When I got there, he was gone and the fuel was gone and I was stuck. I was like,
oh dear.
So I had to restart. It was quite annoying. So that's the game, essentially. You go through these levels. They're imagine if Cybernoid or something like that was a scrolling screen. So imagine that. If that's what this kind of game is. Very, nice levels. You move around, but they're scrolling. It's not your flick screen of Cybernoid, but it's that sort of thing. The visuals in this are excellent. They're really good. Really good. This is what I was saying when we talked about Toobin looking 4 or 5 years old. Because you get totally this in the same episode, and you see what the C64 is now producing, what the competent artists are now putting out. And Hugh Binns has just been getting better and better and better at his pixel art. So there's a little bit of flickering and slowdown at times when there's a lot going on. Usually when you're bouncing a few bouncing bombs around and you've got a few enemies triggering around, but it's not too bad. It's not everywhere, but it can happen, which is a bit annoying. But the aside from that, though, the shading on the sprites, the backdrops, it's just excellent. Really, really good. It's what we saw. It's Stormlord level.
Yeah, it is very good.
It's just excellent work all around. So it's great animation. There's the Mekons look cool. The backdrops are really nicely drawn. Or everything's got that sort of soft pixel shaded style. It's just really cool stuff. So it's just excellent. The 3D section is also smooth and it moves well. There's some really good coding in this from Nick Jones, which is what we've come to expect. He's been doing this. This is very much a Nick Jones production. He's done these kind of things before. And there's sort of these this 3D section is one of the better ones I've seen. Dan is like sort of the little Dan sprite seen from behind, and he's kind of sort of floating through these squares that are coming towards you. It's nice and smooth, and the sound effects are all good as well. Everything's a really high production level. The scrolling for the most part really smooth. As I said, we've seen this before, Beyond the Ice Palace type stuff, and it's like I said, what we've come to expect from Nick Jones. And it's all presentationally, this is excellent, really strong. One of the better looking games we've seen in quite a while. The main issue is, though, the game is just too slight. It's too small. There's just not enough game here. We saw the same. It's the same thing we said about Beyond the Ice Palace. Really, because it's exactly that. It looked great, but there's barely any game there. You're 3 levels and you were done. This is 5 levels, but you go through the first level. It's about, I don't know, what is it? 4 screens, 5 screens? There's not many, is there?
Something like that. No.
So there's not much to sort of do here. It's all one load, I guess. This is what you get for having so much graphical niceties in memory. If you have all this really nice shading and character art and all this kind of sprite usage, something's got to give somewhere if you're only doing it in a single load. So I guess that is the amount of access stuff you can do. You can have 384 rooms of nothing in Spooked, or you can have, maybe 20 or 30 rooms of very, very nice graphics. And that's maybe a bit of a problem. I don't know. So maybe it's because it came from the Spectrum. Not sure. I don't know. There's a real lack of action. As I said, there are enemies to shoot, but there's not many of them. Despite the 3D section, I think you find yourself going through this pretty quickly. I didn't complete it. I got close, though, on my 3rd go. I was, into the 4th level. I'd caught quite a lot. Just sort of learning the ropes, and a couple more goes, I would have had this done. And I think, every time I learned what to do, I was like, where to shoot a little better, I was getting a little bit further. And the 3rd go, I was, getting quite close. So I think for £10, you wanted a little bit more than what you got here. So I think this is probably, it looks great, sounds awesome, and sort of thing like that, but it's probably the weakest in the Dan Dare games so far, of 1, 2, and 3. It lacks the variety of the first game and the puzzles of the second. The second one was similar, but had a bit more puzzly action and a bit more thought to it. This is just go around, shoot some stuff, grab the thing, and then bugger off. There's not much else to this. It's a simple blaster at heart. It's got very little in the way of exploration or reward. There's nowhere to. There's a couple of little sort of offshoots where you go and sort of find maybe an extra weapon, But it's just usually some, extra ammo. There's not that much. Could have been a bit more interesting. The levels could have been a bit more open or a bit more, different ways to go. There's not that much. I mean, by the time you get to the fourth, there is a little bit, but then it's over and you're like, oh, okay. I can't fault the presentation, like I said. The underlying game is just too slight to warrant the expense of this. I get it. There's a lot of production value here, but I think for £10, they're asking a bit much for what is a really quite slim game. And there's not much variety to it because, there's the sort of flying through the stars bit, flying through the gates bit, but it lasts, 20 seconds, if that? It doesn't last very long, does it? And then you're into the next bit and it's the same again, floating around and you're just shooting stuff. Full price, it's just not enough here for that price tag. Maybe it's a budget title, maybe it's a mid-range price title, I don't know. It needed something else to really lift it. It's a shame, really, because I think there's the foundation of a really great game here, but there's just not enough content for me. That was my main problem with it. What about you?
Yeah, it's principally the same, really. Interesting footnote, I noticed the version that we played was cracked by Jog of Pulsar. Jog of Pulsar later became Jog of Sub-Zero, I think was a person I traded a lot of software with back in the day. Excellent contact he was. Hiya, Jog. Really nice graphics in this game. Short but difficult, challenging levels, but just a bit short. So they're only difficult by process of them being quite condensed, actually. I think if they'd have spread them out a bit more, they probably would have been a bit less challenging, but they're a little bit over the top because it's all clustered in a bit. I didn't think the music's good, but it doesn't fit this game at all. No. It felt very generic Maniacs of Noise. Interestingly, there's a letter in this issue of Zap from Charles Deanan of the Maniacs of Noise criticizing Zap for giving them good scores for their sound effects. Strange. It was really odd. Why did you give Myth good scores for its sound effects? I'm not quite sure what his point is really, but it's interesting that it's there. The gameplay in the game for this then, bit repetitive, I thought. Float and seek, okay. You cannot argue with the way this looks. It looks brilliant for a C64 game. Really nice sprites, graphics, everything in the looks wise. It's very Cybernoid inspired. I mean, yes, it scrolls around, but it's of that genus and it's of that engine. So it's got all those colors and all the things that we said about Cybernoid. It had great music, but it had an amazing visual. It looked really cool. And this does the same. It looks so good. Mm-hmm. The enemies that constantly bother you about, okay, it's just a bit of it's annoying, but it's only in very short levels. And the floating controls just annoy you overall because you keep pressing down when you don't want to, because I think, like you, I just wanted to try and avoid things. But the scrolling is very good. The game engine itself, well coded. Everything is very nicely produced. You've got plenty of weapons to go at and things, and there's these little interesting quirks that make it just a little bit better than other things. Just not much of it. You can find your way through this. I suspect a good player of this game would be through it in 10, 15 minutes tops. Mm-hmm. But I found it quite interesting to play. And it's quite nice to see really well engineered games on the C64. When they look the part, you think, why can't all the games look like this? Why can't they all do these really nice shaded pixel art graphics? Why can't they all have a bit of that? Why do we have to go from, some of the games like Spooked to a game like Dan Dare in the same year? How is that possible on this machine? If these graphics are possible, why isn't everyone doing it? I don't know. But 60% is about right. It isn't. It's just a bit short and a bit expensive for a game of this type. If there'd have been more of it, more variety even, and just more to go at, this could have been really something. And if Dan had more missions to do, other than just get fuel, if there was a few other things he had to do, maybe taking it into Dan Dare 1 territory and then perhaps finding along the way that there was mutants and you had to kill them, Dan Dare 2 territory, you'd have had a better Dan Dare 3. So it would have been better if you had a few things to do, because that kind of works for Dan Dare, and that's how the comics work as well. Yeah. You've got to defeat the Mekon ultimately, but it's all the things you have to do to defeat the Mekon that really defeat him.
You're not really defeating him in this, you're just escaping. You're not stopping him.
So I mean, you need to plant a bomb that blows the spaceship up at the end or something like that. Yeah. And that's what the second one's like. So I don't know. There's lessons that they haven't quite learned from the first and second game, as you say. This is graphically the strongest, but game-wise the weakest, I think. At least certainly up there. But it's such a shame. I think with a little bit more game, it would have been really good. As it stands, it's okay. I enjoyed what I played of it, and it does look nice. And it is Posh Shark, isn't it? So it's good.
Posh Shark.
Yeah, it's Posh Shark, yeah.
Yeah, true. There you go. Dan Dare 3. It's all right. It's just not enough of it. Let's move on to our last game of February 1990. Graham, it's over to you to assume the role of one Axel F and tell us all about Beverly Hills Cop.
Obviously a licensed game. Beverly Hills Cop was a very big movie. Let's talk about that in a minute. This was published by Tynesoft. Not the best choice, I think. Not the best choice they've ever made. How this came about for them, I have no idea. I think they must have outbid Ocean, surely, for this. £9.99 was the price, 68% though for the game, so it's that awkward score in it. We don't quite know. It's just it's three quarters okay, nearly, I don't know. Copyright was Paramount Pictures, obviously, because it's a big movie. This was coded by Michael Headley. He did Buffalo Bill's big rodeo show thing that we played, which we liked. Ian Davison, he did Superman, Summer Olympiad. These are Timesoft stalwarts. And both of those games weren't terrible.
No.
The graphics are Michael Owens. He did Ninja Commando, and that was pretty good graphically, if you remember.
Yeah.
Kevin Preston, he did Circus Games. Well, the graphics were good in that. The games were a bit obtuse, but some of the graphics were nice. And the music, of course, it's David Whittaker. Of course it is. Who else was it going to be? Who else is it going to be? So the instructions are a bit odd for this. And I'll tell you why they're odd. It's because, I'll tell you what, let me explain the plot of the film, because this is the only relation to the film there's going to be, other than the fact that it's called Beverly Hills Cop. So I may as well explain what it's about. So Beverly Hills Cop, but this is just from a wiki. Beverly Hills Cop was a 1984 American buddy cop action comedy film directed by Martin Brest with a screenplay by Daniel Petrie Jr. and a story by Danilo Bach and Daniel Petrie Jr. It starred obviously Eddie Murphy, famously starred Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley, a street-smart Detroit detective who visits Beverly Hills, California, solve the murder of his best friend. Judge Reinhold, John Ashton, Ronnie Cox, Liza Eilbacher, Stephen Burkhoff, and Paul Reiser, and Jonathan Banks appear in the supporting roles. The first film in the Beverly Hills Cop franchise shot Eddie Murphy to international stardom, won the People's Choice Award for Favorite Motion Picture, and was nominated for both the Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, and the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay in 1985. An immediate blockbuster, received positive reviews and earned $234 million at the North American domestic box office alone, making it the highest grossing film released in the US in 1984.
Pretty big.
That's a big film. Okay. And why do I mention all of that? Because the game has Beverly Hills Cop on it.
There's a picture at the beginning.
And there's pictures on at the beginning, but I don't know that it's really I don't think this game was ever really about Beverly Hills Cop at all. So there's a nice title screen when the game loads up, which is, okay, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Some of these graphics in these are okay, some less so. This one isn't a bad one. It does look like Axel. It's the famous image of Beverly Hills Cop, so where he's sat on the front of a car.
Yeah.
So you'll have seen that a million times if you remember looking about the film. You think about the posters. It's that poster, and it's not a bad version of that. And they've clearly borrowed the engine from the other sports games, because the way it appears on the screen is a bit like the Summer Olympiad game.
Yes.
So this is clearly the Summer Olympiad engine behind this bit. Some big writing appears on the screen, and this is where it starts to deviate from what you would call a traditional movie tie-in, I think. So you've got 5 levels in this game, and they all appear on the screen. And in this, the way they've done it is that they're like parts of a multi-part Olympiad type game. So you can play any one of the 5, or you can play them all. Now, that's not in keeping with the way these games work. That isn't how narrative games work when they're tied to a film license. That shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't.
They're all separate loads as well. So really, you can just play 5 mini games that are inspired by Beverly Hills Cop, which is kind of what this is. The version of Axel F's theme by Harold Faltermeyer that appears in the film, very famous. Everyone knows. Everyone knows everybody. So this isn't a bad version of that by Dave Whittaker. It's been Whittakerized a bit, but not as much as he probably wanted to.
Yeah, what was the one we had the other week where it was Whittakerized? What was that one? There was another one.
That was last week, wasn't it? It was Ghostbusters.
That was the Ghostbusters one, wasn't it? Yeah.
So this one isn't bad, and it sounds like Axel F, and it's not a bad version. Oh, okay. So from the opening get-go, you would be sort of set up for yourself thinking this is going to be about the game, and it kind of isn't. It kind of isn't. Nope. It isn't. So I'm going to go through the 5 games, because this is the only way you can really go through this is by going through the games one at a time. They are linked to things that happen in the film, kind of. But you're not really. They're not tied together really. So they're just kind of almost like this has been put together by people that make Olympic event games. So you have to think of this as like a game about Beverly Hills Cop made by people that make that. So in game 1, and they've even labeled them in the manual, they're labeled as game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4, and game 5. They don't even have a name for the parts of the thing. So they may as well call it the driving event for the difference it makes. So the game 1 is an isometric car game. Now in the manual, it says, whilst on a night patrol in Beverly Hills, Axel receives a call from HQ to keep a lookout for a pink Cadillac driven by Crackshot Joe, a key member of the city's underworld gang, the Hills Heist Mob. The word on the street is that the gang are about to commit a major crime. Axel's boss has only one thing to say: get out there and stop the crime before it becomes yet another statistic to his ever-increasing crime figures. Now, remember in the film, he's gone to investigate the death of his friend, the murder of his friend. That's why he's in Beverly Hills, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's why he's there, isn't he? He's gone to investigate that, and also he gets involved in shenanigans.
Yeah, there's a link to Beverly Hills, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so he goes, and that's when he's out of jurisdiction and craziness, and his Detroit ways aren't welcome in the quick, calm order of Beverly Hills. So game 1 it's an isometric car game, and a horrible one at that. It controls horribly, this, and it's got a dreadful engine sound, which even thinking about it now sends a shiver down my spine. The top 3/4 of the screen is the isometric driving part with the horrible scaling where the houses are either tiny or the car is massive. And the road's small. You speed up with up, slow down with down, and left and right alters your position, and first and left turn your car
Well, it turns
with
you
the
left or
fire
right.
button pressed.
But you have to do it with the fire button, yeah.
You have to press the fire button, which also shoots the gun at the same time, it seems. The
Yep.
bottom UI shows you the indications of direction that you go. So you've got like a UI across the bottom, and you try and, there's like an arrow going sort of in the compass points that are isometric compass points. So it's north, south, east, west, but isometric angled.
Mhm.
And so you've got to try and just drive along the roads and aiming towards this crack shot Joe, looking for them and following the directions. Now, the angles that you follow kind of make no sense as you're driving because it'll say, go left, you go left, and then it'll be go left, so you go left, it'll be go left. You think, well, I'm going around in circles then if I'm doing that. But you're not going around in circles because the map doesn't draw that way. So you're continually going in really weird directions that make no sense whatsoever. So you're just driving around endlessly generated crappy roads, really, and they all look the same. If you hit anything, and I mean anything, you're instantly drained of all your life and you're back to the start of the thing again. Which is really annoying. And that's kind of game one. And you'll do that and you'll either catch the Cadillac and then it goes to the next game if you've chose to do that. Or it'll say, do you want to try again? like it was an event.
Yeah, play again.
So you can go, no. And it'll take back to the menu. You can choose event 2. And there's a score kind of tally, but that's it. So game 2 it is. So you'll go to game 2, and this says, during Axel's high-speed chase, through the deserted nighttime streets, he learns that the gang's target is the Great American Arms Company. On reaching the warehouse, he finds members of the gang already there, loading crates of arms onto waiting vans. Axel must get to the dispatch bay and stop any further shipments of arms leaving for gangland. Okay, now...
For where?
For gangland.
Oh, yeah,
So,
there.
Bear in mind that it's basically a side-scrolling beat-em-up, okay? And there's okay details in the backgrounds. Utterly terrible main sprites.
Awful.
And now, we've said before about Timesoft games, they have a problem with controls, don't they? We've said it over so many of the Timesoft games. I mean, the Circus one was ruined by it, and a few of the others have been spoiled by it. I mean, they just don't seem to be able to get the idea of controls. And this is a classic example of this. So joystick up is a high blocking move. Joystick down, low blocking move. Joystick right and left, walk right and left. Okay. With the fire button pressed, up is high punch, down is low punch, left is kick, and right is jump. Who, in the right mind, makes fire button and right jump? Who? What kind of sadist does that? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just make up and...
Diagonal. Or just up.
Or just up. What? So, because of that, you end up with these weird controlling problems. The idea of this is you've got to kind of walk from left to right in a kind of almost a quasi version of the Untouchables levels and the Batman levels. So you're walking through a warehouse, jumping over barrels. It all goes very Mario at one point. I'm like, what the hell has this got to do with Axel F and Beverly Hills Cop?
Nothing.
I don't remember him going into a warehouse and jumping over barrels and avoiding things like that.
It's me, Axel F.
It's like that. But the main sprite graphics are so bad in this, and the animation is just laughable. Now, what baffled me with this is that these are the guys that did pretty good animation and characters in some of their Timesoft sport games. So what clown did they get to draw that? It's like, I mean, there's no way that the guys who were responsible for those amazing backgrounds in some of those Buffalo Bill games drew that, because it's embarrassing. It's just this blocky, lumpy, crappy thing that kind of fidgets and it's rubbish. It's utterly rubbish. And his walk cycles laughably. He has no need. His knees don't bend. He walks like a bloody android. It's so bad. And it's also endless meandering in this level as well. It just goes on for ages. I mean, look, did these guys not ever play Green Beret at any point? No, they need to do is speed this up and make it a bit like Green Beret. And you've had a decent level on your hands. But no, that was back in 1986. The main game window for this is the top 4/5. The UI is at the bottom with faces for your lives that don't look anything like Axel Foley. I'm pretty sure they're not. There's a timer on there and a score because you've only got a certain amount of time to do this, even though it's never really explained why. Your backgrounds, I say, they look all right. There's some nice shading here and there. The pixel work is pretty good for backgrounds generally, but the main sprites and the gameplay and the way it controls is utterly awful. It's crap, and I mean really crap. You'll be pleased when it comes up with the option to leave it and go to the next thing, or maybe you won't. So then you get to game 3. It says in the instructions, once the warehouse has been secured, and reinforcements have arrived, Axel speeds off in hot pursuit of 3 vans loaded with arms. The guns must be stopped from reaching Mr. Big, Bruno Badalino's, at his mansion. Otherwise, further bloodshed will hit the streets. The gang, seeing Axel in hot pursuit, starts offloading crates in his path. So some nifty driving is needed to avoid these and other road users before getting close enough to stop them by the only way he knows how. Blast them off the road by shooting and exploding the crates inside the van with his faithful Colt 45 automatic. Is that the only way he knows how to do something? I'm pretty sure there's better ways.
I'm sure
He
there
must
are.
just. It said that it says he must just toll the third van to the mansion and not shoot at it. Otherwise, he may never find the mansion. I think it meant to say tail. It might say tail. It's a bit blurry there.
It does
You got to
say
tail the mansion, so you got to tail it. So, game 3 is a top-down driving game chasing a van thing. Oh, this game reminded me of a crap version of Trans Am, that old Spectrum game from 1983.
Yes.
Top-down view as you aim to follow a truck to its secret destination. Background graphics are again okay, though the pace is weirdly slow. It's like he's slowly getting away.
Like following him in a golf cart.
It's really slow. The UI at the bottom is surely a joke, with the world's blockiest steering wheel and brownest dashboard I've ever seen. I mean, that steering wheel is a joke. It's a joke. No, in a game with the quality of graphics artists like this, I don't know what they were thinking of when they did that. I think they forgot, obviously. The cars look blocky and small, and it all feels like a trundle. There's meant to be things blocking your path, but they're so easy to avoid because it's so slow. It's not hard, this at all. You just got to just not make sure you just don't, you shoot the trucks and just follow the thing. It's really mundane and dreary. It's like you're in an ice cream van. You could stop and sell ice creams in that level. Anyway, you'll get eventually to the end of that, and then you'll go to, game 4. Oh, my Lord. Right. Okay. Game 4. This is the luxury mansion. It says in the manual, with the information Axel now has, he proceeds to try and arrest Mr. Big at his luxury mansion in Beverly Hills. The mansion is well fortified by Mr. Big's men who patrol is a strong word here, through the large terraced garden. Axel must carefully pick his way through the guards to gain access to the front door. You control this with the joystick again. Upwards is forwards, downwards is walk backwards. Stupid. Left and right, walk left and right, and then a fire button pressed. You can then freeze Axel and he can choose 8 directions of shooting, and then you can shoot in 8 directions. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's quite important. You can shoot in 8 directions and move where you like. The guards can't. So it's a top-down commando type perspective for this one. So you're now going up the screen from the bottom, and there's sort of a forced perspective view.
Yep.
You need to storm the mansion in this blocky commando view. You walk around the mansion grounds with guards aiming at you. You can stop and shoot in 8 directions, and because you can position yourself pretty easily out of the range of all of those, you can just kind of angle yourself at a slightly obtuse angle to them and just pick them off really easily. No challenge to that. No. And they shoot really slowly, and you can always avoid the bullets. The backgrounds are okay. Again, they're not bad for what they are. It feels like they're getting less detailed and less care is being taken, though, by this point. This feels like a mistake for this game. The sprites all kind of look the same as far as the guards go, and the UI has game name and some Axel profile images for lives. Still look a bit more like Axel, I suppose, at this point in his yellow top. Plus the number of guards remaining and the score. The grounds are pretty extensive, and it's kind of a maze. Follow the brown brick road is my advice to you, because that leads to the opening of the mansion. There is a better sense of game here. It's not really sneaking, but storming. And it's a bit easy, all told, but it's probably better than the other parts because it feels a little bit more like a game. The others don't really feel like you're doing anything. You're driving in the dark, you're walking through a warehouse, and then you're driving slowly across a trundly landscape in what looks like a buggy. So this feels like you're doing more Axel Foley type stuff. I mean, he doesn't run around the film shooting everybody, I have to say, but at least this is more like the sort of thing you'd expect a cop to do in a mansion full of gangsters.
I think there's a bit towards the end, isn't it, where they sort of do storm the mansion in there. I think this is the bit that is actually
alluded to.
Yeah.
It's alluding to it, but because they haven't wrapped any story in the game with this, you'd never know, and it's kind of divorced from the film.
And you could do this on its own, so
exactly.
Who cares?
So you'll, if you can be bothered, you'll get the option. Go back to the option screen, or carry on if you've decided to do that for the final showdown of game number 5. Game 5 is described. It says Axel, now inside the mansion, must search the rooms for the 3 hostages held captive by the boss before arresting Mr. Big himself. The armed guards are in various rooms throughout the building, so Axel must be ready for action at all times. One of the hostages tells Axel that Bruno Bardolino's has a bomb in the building, which he intends to use if he is found by police. Axel must take this threat seriously, but not be intimidated enough to get... Axel must take this threat seriously, but not be intimidated enough to get out and save his own skin. On reaching Mr. Big's den, Axel must eliminate this gangland menace, and if a bomb is activated, get out to safety in the quickest possible time. Once Axel is inside, he'll be viewed with his back to the front door. This door will not be opened again until Mr. Big has been eliminated. Normal joystick movement. It just says normal joystick movement. That's the sentence. When he enters a room with armed guards present, the cursor will change to white. Press fire button to fire. All guards must be eliminated before Axel can leave a room. 3 hostages can be found. Points awarded. 1 hostage, 1,000. 2 hostages, 2,000. 3 hostages, 6,000.
Ooh.
For a maximum score, find the 3 lady hostages and Mr. Big in the quickest possible time and then get out of the mansion against the ticking down bomb counter. Yeah. All right. The final section's odd. It's a first-person shooter, C64 style, so it's sluggish, but it works as a first-person shooter, so you're walking around the corridors of the mansion, entering rooms. If there's people in the room, the crosshair changes and you have to shoot them. It isn't what you call great, but it isn't what you call bad. It's a weird thing to have in this game at this point. Mm-hmm. It's totally at odds with everything else in the game, and it's just a classic of this kind of thing. I mean, I don't get it why it's like this. I get it's quite good in what they've tried. Don't get me wrong. I mean, okay, it's pretty technically clever what they've done. It's a bit of a mixture of 3D Monster Maze with Axel Foley. I don't even know that was a thing, but okay. And the UI's changed again. This time we've got a time indication. And at some point when the bomb's triggered, you get a bomb countdown. There's also, again, some indication of your lives. This time there's 3. And then underneath that, there's some head images of the hostages as you find them. They'll appear in the sort of 3 gaps. And then you'll get to find Mr. Big at some point, and then you've got to get out before the bomb goes off. The main issue with all of this is the pace. Because it's 3D first-person C64 styley, it's kind of plod, 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 which kind of lacks the urgency you need when you're trying to escape from a ticking down time bomb. Yeah. And yes, it's a technical limitation, but you made the choice to make it first-person. To make a game escape part of a game exciting, slugging your way through a first person isn't really what you'd call classically the right move. And that's kind of the 5 games. You'll either go through those 5 games and you'll get the end screen, and there's 2 different screens. You'll either die or you don't, really. If you die, like I say, you get to be dead and see a humorous odd death screen, which looks like a badly drawn Axel Foley bandaged up in a hospital bed on a drip. I thought it looked more like Frank Bruno than Axel Foley at that point, really. It's a bit weird. If you win, you get a more classic Axel Foley image, I suppose. Looks a bit more like him. Well, kind of him, but it is more Axel Foley looking, and then more giant writing on the screen on either. Uh-huh. And that's kind of what you get. So you either win, hey, or you're hospitalized. And that's it, really. Then it's back to the options screen, you go. This is a game where you've got large format text on the main screens, but Commodore font on the in-between bits, which seems almost like they just bolted these 5 games together without any real idea how they would connect or what they would mean.
Nope.
The key issue with this game then is its blatant lack of consistency and its approach to the film that it's supposed to be based upon. I get that there's probably hints of the film narrative in there, maybe somewhere, but I'm adding those in by the process of me knowing the film. And because maybe there's parts that, I mean, we could say, yes, well, there's a part in that film where they attack a mansion. I suppose it is kind of that in this, but it's not. There's no parts of the film narrative in it, even if it's just text, that link it together for you. And it just needs that. It needs anchoring in the film. Otherwise, these are just random games. It's just a multi-game with Beverly Hills Cop stuck on it.
Yep.
Because of that lack of consistency, and because it's been designed like a multi-event game, it's no surprise, really, I suppose. It shouldn't come as a surprise because it's by Tynesoft. They've just made what they knew how to make.
Yep.
I mean, the mini games kind of, they don't really tie in, really, do they? I mean, that side-scrolling beat-em-up part, if someone said to you, play that, but never told you it was Axel F and it was Beverly Hills Cop, you'd never know. You'd never make that connection.
Nope.
Same as you wouldn't in the first part, you wouldn't in the third part. Maybe you would in the 4th part if you'd seen the film, because there's a mansion, but I don't think you would. And then the first-person shooting part, I don't remember a sequence in the film where he rescues hostages. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is there. I don't remember it. But then again, that's because you don't generally remember Beverly Hills Cop for those bits. It's a comedy. So it's got funny things in it. This game has no humor in it whatsoever, none, which is kind of odd because the film's kind of got a humor. It's a comedy, really, comedy buddy cop movie. There's no buddies in it. There's no interplay of any kind. There's no other characters in it, really, other than Axel Foley. In the film, he has all sorts of people he plays against. All right, maybe that's just not the way they do it. The controls are terrible throughout the game, though. I mean, how can you get it so badly wrong so many times? 5 times they tried, 5 times they failed. I mean, I don't know how you get a top-down car driving game wrong, but they managed it.
They managed.
But this is the same people who thought that pressing right and fire would be a good way to jump upwards. Stupid satanic controls like that and have no place in the game's world. And like I said, Beverly Hills Cop has a sense of humour, and not surprising, really. It's got Eddie Murphy in it, who was a very famous stand-up comedian at the time. This is the film that launched him into the world, into everyone's on the back of the 2 comedy stand-up routines he did, which was
Raw
and I'll say Deliverance, but it's not Deliverance, but
no. Go on, I'll come.
But anyway, Raw and another one. But you know, he did these 2 massive funny comedy, and he was considered the best stand-up comedy of around that time, since probably Richard Pryor, actually, in that way. You know, he was that big. But none of that's in this game. The games are all dreary as well. Isometric night driving on empty streets. Who thought that'd be fun? Nobody thought that was fun.
Delirious, by the way.
Delirious, that's it. Badly conceived and executed side-scrolling beat-em-up with blocky rubbish sprites. Naff, dreary top-down, slow-driving Trans Am rip-off in 7 years after it was just rubbish. Naff Commando. No one wants to play a game called Naff Commando, but that's what that is. And then the weird world of the sluggish FPS, which has no place here. It's linked to Beverly Hills Cop because it's got that name on it, and the sprites, some of the sprites and the graphics look a bit like Axel Foley, but that's it. Where it matters, the links to the plot of the film and making something you can enjoy, well, those things were really important here, and they are not here, they're missing. The big mystery for Axel is, where is he? Where is the story? I mean, you just need to make a game where you control Axel doing things he does in the film. Is that hard? Is that hard as a concept? Watch the film, pick out some salient things that he does, do that. If ever there was a game that could do with some kind of walk and seek style gremlin adventure, surely it would be this. A game where he plays an investigative detective looking for clues to his friend's death. That's almost written for a kind of walk and sort of chat to people, adventure-y type thing, isn't it? You're investigating stuff. Even if you did it like Maniac Mansion, it would still be better than this. Nice pixel work here and there, where they could be bothered with it, devoid of any fun whatsoever, and no real narrative link to Beverly Hills Cop. My final thought on this was Beverly Hills, stop.
Very good.
What about you?
I don't know. I'd have rather played a car where I was sticking bananas in tailpipes.
Exactly. Where's the level that did that? That would have been fun.
Absolutely. Anyway, why turn these films into games that seemingly have nothing really to do with the film and then do all the parts really badly? I mean, it's 1990. Was anyone clamoring for a Beverly Hills Cop game?
I think they were.
It's 1984. It's 6 years out, 5 years out. Look, I was looking on Moby. This came out on everything. This even came out on the BBC.
It did.
But weirdly, all the other versions, Level 3 is an into-the-screen outrun style car game.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Just the C64 that has this weird golf cart chase.
Random.
It's just odd. It's just really weird. Also, as well, the sort of walking left to right bits, the second level, on the Atari ST and Amiga version, looks like kind of a sort of Rolling Thunder style. You've got a gun.
Yeah, weird.
So, you know, I don't know why they've changed it to this shitty beat 'em up. I don't know.
No.
I don't get it. It wasn't even, it's just, I don't know, was this shown on TV recently? Did Tynesoft catch it on telly and go, get the license for that?
Maybe. I mean, it's been a few years since it came out.
Was it cheap? Was the license just cheap? Batman the Untouchables had gone, so all there was left with was Beverly Hills Cop being offered. I don't know. What I do know is that this is pretty rubbish. 5 disparate games slapped into one game that is somehow supposed to be representative of the film. Part 1 reminded me of Give My Regards to Broad Street. You know, the game we played in issue all the way back. And we hated that because it's at least, I don't think you died if you just stopped. You went into the curb. The fact that you just glance the curb and you just watch your health go.
Yeah.
Oh, this is stupid. No one wants that. Just stupid.
No, they don't.
At least, but I'll give it this one thing. At least it looks like it's at night. You know, take note, Batman.
Yeah, true. It did look like it was
the right colours, blue and black.
There is that.
They use the right colours. So fair play. At least it's not the best. The scrolling's all right, and it looks like it's at night. Yellow, what lights in windows and stuff. It looks like it's at night. So fair enough. Scrolling beat him up. This was just dreadful. Words fail at this bit. Slow, turgid, ugly, and stupid. Where'd they get all those mines? I don't remember Axel Foley running past mines.
A job lot.
Yeah. Also, as well, he doesn't actually work. He's on holiday in the film.
That's right.
He takes leave to go to Beverly Hills to thingy it, and then just sort of gets in with the police. In the first thing, it says in the instructions, you're sent by HQ to tail someone and stop someone in Beverly Hills. Well, that's not the case in the film. You're not working as a cop, but you keep getting told, stop it. You're on vacation.
Yeah, honestly, you couldn't make it up, could you?
Anyway, the top-down car bit, cars explode on impact at such low speeds. It's like that bit, is it Top Secret? Or one of the airplanes or something where the Pinto goes ping.
Yeah, Top Secret.
It's literally this. That's this. It's just stupid. Then we have the blocky run and gun bit. Well, meander and gun. Finally, we have some odd first-person assault on a house, which is dull as hell. I don't get this game. I don't understand it. I understand you've kind of put it together for me, and it didn't actually occur to me, but this is literally 5 mini games. It's a 5 mini game-a-thon, isn't it? That's the title. Play them all. They might as well just had Axel Foley dressed as a clown at the beginning. So, welcome, roll up. This is Beverly Hills Cop. Hey!
Yeah, it would have made more sense.
I don't get it. Where's the guy who goes, get the fuck out of here, not him and everything. The funny bits from the film and where's Judge Reinhold and partner and like we said about Vendetta, there's nothing in this that sort of educates you about the film, anything. No. As much as we sort of slated on the Untouchables, at least they did try and string a narrative together with the newspaper bits and put some together. Yeah. But this it's just 5. It's just a Tyneside game. It's ridiculous. I'd rather watch Beverly Hills Cop 3 than play this. And Beverly Hills Cop 3 is bloody rubbish. I don't get this game. 68%? No way. No. That means that each game is getting, 14%, 14% or something? No. This is a mid-40s at best. It's rubbish. Yeah. Good Lord. Beverly Hills Stop. Yes. Very well done. I like that. And there we go. That's it. Nothing more to say on this nonsense. No. The best game this week is Dan Dare 3. Yeah. Because by miles. Because there might not be much there, but what's there is actually all right, and it looks amazing. Yeah. So
it's pretty.
Yeah. Spooked is stupid. And Toobin is, it's too bad. Yeah. Oh, it's not. It's too bad. It could have been better.
Yeah, get in the bin.
Yeah. But it's like what I said. Yeah. It's a game from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, strangely. Anyway, there we go. That's it. That's your games for this week. And that's February done. Before we go, though, we do have a crap vert to look at.
I can see it. I wish I hadn't. What? Is that if they glued headphones to someone's forehead?
I don't know.
Is that futuristic?
so this is an advert for something called, it's Mastertronic 16 Blitz. So I think this is Amiga.
Budget.
It's some Amiga Atari ST sort of budget stuff. And at the top it says Cerebral Software. Then there's 3 games which you can barely make out: Conflict, Hunter Killer, and Grimblood.
Yes.
There's a load of Quixel soft drawing, whatever it was at the time, sort of polyhedrons floating around.
Goodness me,
there's a sphere, there's a hexagon, there's a cone. There's all kinds of crap just floating around. But then, inexplicably on the left, squashed across the left, there's a woman with her hair down across half her face with some kind of diode or something across strapped to her forehead.
Yep.
And I don't understand it. I don't understand any of this. I don't
think you'll ever understand it.
It says Cerebral Software, so it's why is she there?
I don't know, but you look at that and you realise that somebody didn't have control of the scaling. So, because you can hold down the Shift key, I think it is, or maybe the Control key in Photoshop and Illustrator, and if you decide to change the size of an object, it will keep it to its relative scale.
Yeah.
And if you take that off, then it will just go stretch and distort and look exactly like that crappy advert right there.
Yep.
So, why you've got a squashed image of a woman with a headphone glued to her forehead? I don't know. It's meant to be some kind of cerebral thing, I guess. I'm not sure what that's really meant to prove, or what it's got to do with anything. But if you look at the typefaces, so they've got the Cerebral Software typeface. Not only is it badly kerned, which is for me a crime.
But
it's also stretched.
And the L and E on the right.
Yeah, it's been stretched badly. So they've stretched it inconsistently so they could just fit across the entire top of the page, as it were. But it's just like non-scaled fonts really annoy me. It actually makes me kind of feel kind of crazy and a bit sick. So if you've decided to change a typeface into an object in whatever vector tool you've probably used for this, if you change the scale of that, you've got to keep it in its relative scale. Otherwise, it will stretch and look like that, where it looks like it's all sort of short and fat. And they've done it to everything. The Conflict and the Hunter Killer and the Grimblood writing is the same. They've kind of squashed it. Never do that.
Nope.
It's like you learn that in like graphic design school. And then to throw those stupid 3D objects, which, by the way, I don't know what they've been rendered on, but it clearly doesn't render many polys, does it? Because they're quite low poly for a sphere.
Yeah.
I mean, the Amiga must do better than that, easily
Yeah,
better.
it does.
So what they've done that on, there's some kind of, I don't know what that's been done on. But Photoshop is brand new at this point because I think it only came out around this time, around the 90s. Photoshop 1, I think, came out in 1990, I think. So this is all illustrated, clearly all an equivalent. But they've thrown screens from the game at different shapes and angles. Don't do that because you can't see what they are. Look, can you read the writing?
Yeah, also as well, I just want to draw your attention to the writing that's underneath the picture of the woman. It says, as the disc loaded, I felt drawn into different reality, an alternative world where I assumed the identity of another.
What? What's that got to do with anything?
Don't know.
Oh, dear. Do you know,
Grimblood, such a shit name for a game. Grimblood.
Grimblood's a shit name. 16 Blitz. Someone should have got slapped for that. And then Mastertronic 16 Blitz. It's like, for $4.99, you ain't blitzing nobody here. Those games look crapola. Utterly crap. What a crap vert that really is. And to top it all off, they've got some kind of angular blue checkered track in the background. Someone needs to have a good talking to.
That curves off to the top right.
Exactly.
And to the bottom left.
This is typeface abuse right here, this is.
I thought that's why I saw this. I went, this is going to anger him.
It does.
There's so much wrong when you dig into it.
The low poly 3D objects scattered have annoyed me. Never, it annoys me when I see anything like that. I mean, okay, the ones that are naturally shaped that look the part, so obviously things like dodecahedrons or 20-sided dice and that kind of idea, those kind of, polygon type shapes. But spheres should be smooth. You can draw a fairly smooth sphere. You don't need polys for that.
No.
You just need good shading, especially in Illustrator. Gradient fills are the key to that, really. Radial gradient fills.
Bit of garage shading, maybe.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't have had it then, but it's probably predates all of that. But don't try and do it if you can't do it. No, they look like really bad things you'd find in a cereal packet.
Anyway,
like really bad toys.
It's crap, isn't it?
It's a crap vert. But it amazes me, right, that this one thing that's been consistent in 145 episodes of this podcast is the crap verts. We've got scaled how many? 4 years of the games from 1985 through to 1995 years worth of games, really.
Yeah, nearly 5
So in
years
5
now.
years, they're still making crap adverts for games. Why haven't they got better at that? The technology's got better, the software's got better. How are they still turning out this utter arsehole? Goodness me.
Don't know, because these kind of things are always sort of trying to chase. This thing is a victim of trying to chase sort of virtuality, virtual reality, and virtual stuff, and trying to Max Headroom style sort of futurism and stuff like that. When what it actually looks
on a
like
budget.
Yeah, exactly, on a Mastertronic budget. So you haven't got much to spend on this. So it's like, yeah.
Nothing says.
How many polys is that going to cost? How many? A smooth sphere is going to cost how much? Just make the polish show.
Nothing says budget neuromancer than gluing a headphone to your forehead.
Neurochancer.
Just rubbish. Utterly rubbish. And she got no nose as well, which is weird.
I don't know why. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. She's a very attractive lady, and I'm sure at the time I'd be like, oh, she's very pretty. But
well, they've hit the filter buttons. They've squished her and hit the filter, so they've blended her skin into her hair. So she's got no facial definition. The only reason she's got a side to her head is because it's dark. And there's black. There's no hair there. Otherwise, it'd just be one continuous brown mass.
True. It ain't good. It's not good at all. No.
Oh, it's got a purple border around that image. Just get it away from me. I can't take it anymore.
All right, let's move on.
Purple border. Ah.
In other news this month, there was no chart in your Commodore user because Commodore user, it was the last issue.
That's it. Gone. No more Commodore user.
So it disappeared. It comes back next month as Commodore Amiga, I think.
That's it. Commodore Boozer.
Something like that. So this C64 Top 20 here is from CMVG.
Okay.
I haven't managed to find one. So this is the dedicated to Commodore 64 Top 20 from CMVG. Let's see if it's any better. Let's go down. Let's count down from 10 as we normally do. At number 10 is Top Gun. At number 9 is Cobra.
Oh, God.
At number 8 is Cabal.
I
like Cabal was good. Untouchables is at number 7.
No.
Robocop's at number 6.
8.
This is all Ocean, isn't it? Ocean rule this lot. Ghosts and Goblins is at number 5. Power Drifters at number 4.
Okay.
Stunt Car Racer at 3.
Yeah.
Weirdly, Paperboy at number 2.
The encore release, yeah.
Yeah, and Batman is at number 1.
Of course it
Because
is.
Hit Squad are Ocean, aren't they? So that's 6 Ocean titles in the top 10.
Yeah. Crazy.
Going down from 11, Strider is at number 11. Oh, good lord. Short Circuit at 12.
Well, I've won if I've seen any more ocean games in this chart.
It's a hit squad, yeah. Whizball at 13.
That's the best one.
Rampage at 14. Nigel Mansell's GP.
Oh, no.
I've seen that one. 15, Father Christmas.
That doesn't sound good.
It's at 16. Double Dragon. That doesn't sound good.
No.
17. 100% Dynamite.
Surely a compilation,
Must
isn't
be
it?
a compilation, yeah, by Ocean. It's at 18. Strider again.
Why is it in twice?
Because it went down in 1 week, in 1 month. It's gone down from 6 to 11, and then it's gone down from 11 to 19. It's that bad.
Classic.
Oh, that's really good. It actually lowered its rating in the same bit of paper. That's incredible. Never seen that before, but the game deserves it. Strider.
So bad. That's so funny.
And number 20 is Altered Beast. Oh dear. It's dreadful top 20 that is. What we got is good in there. Stunt Car Racer, Power Drift, Ghost of Goblins, I guess, Whizball, Cabal.
Yeah.
No account for taste, is there?
No.
All right, okay. Let's have a look. What we got for next month? There are actually 14 games, so we've got to work out for the next couple of weeks. It's only 2 episodes, so we've got to plough through them. Anyway, we've got Fourth Dimension, which is made for 4 games. Okay. So they're split up that sort of thing. But let's have a look what we've got. Blue Angels, not sure what that is. Bomber, Boogie Boy. We've looked at The Champ. Okay. I hope that's based on the film. I could do with playing like a Ricky Schroeder character, watching his dad get killed.
Sounds like lovely. Sounds like a crappy boxing game.
Yeah,
is Blue Angels? That's not the Blue Angel 69 one we just looked at, is it?
I don't think so. No, I can have a look. I'll just have a look because I've done the thingy. I'll see what we've got. I'll tell you what we've got. I'll just do it from our list rather than going through that. Looks, it's hard to work out. We've got Fourth Dimension. One of those is Insects in Space. Okay. Wild Streets, Fighter Bomber. Okay. Super Wonder Boy.
Okay.
Pro Mountain Bike Simulator.
Oh no!
Guess who that's by?
I don't need to guess. I know it's by. I know what it's going to look like.
Then we've got Neutralizer the Electro Scan.
That doesn't sound good either.
Fourth Dimension, Head the Ball. This Fourth Dimension is like a Hewson compilation, but they all get individual reviews, so that's why we're looking at them. Okay. But it's also got Cyberdyne Warrior, which is the one that they did before Retrograde. Okay. It's those guys. So that's their
basically
Cyberdyne
Retrograde.
Warrior. I don't know. Blue Angels, no, is a separate game.
Oh, gosh.
It's a separate game.
So what are the chances?
Yeah, exactly. Then we've got Dynamite Ducks.
Okay.
Tintin on the Moon. The Champ.
Right, okay.
Steel Thunder.
That sounds like a dodgy movie.
Yeah, best of the best, followed by Steel Thunder.
Or a rock band.
Probably. Finally, another Fourth Dimension one, Mission Impossible.
Okay.
That's it. That's our March coverage. 14 games.
Wow.
There's a lot of budget stuff.
Yeah, I think we're heading to the what's all that's left.
Aye. It does sort of ease off a little bit after March. I think there's a couple of months where it's maybe big, but yeah. So that's what we've got coming up over the next couple of weeks. That's February done. February's out of the way.
Thank God for that. What a bunch of bloody rubbish. I mean, it started off well, didn't it, with Space Rogue, which showed a lot of promise. It went quickly downhill, though.
It didn't. Let me have a look at the list.
Mega Nova, Maze Mania, Bushido, Vendetta or Viennetta, as we like to call it, Shark, Footballer of the Year, Pointless. It just goes on. Blue Angel 69.
One of the best games of the month is when you can play at a piece of paper and pencils.
Yeah, it was a game where you could see Robo Boobies. Yeah. Chase HQ, which was an abomination, of course, as we all know. SimCity was interesting because of its stuff, but then it was quickly followed by Ghostbusters Poo.
Ballistics.
And Ballistics, which was a load of balls. Shitfire 40, I'm going to say it because let's just say it. Iron Board, as we like to call it.
Iron Board, yeah.
And then we end up with our final 4 with 2 Board, Crappy Spooked, Not So Spooked, yeah. And then the final insults, which were, I suppose Damn Dare 3 is actually pretty good, but just short and as we said, but Beverly Hills Cop, what's this, just the Beverly Hills Stop.
Yeah, I don't understand how some of those games got like Toobin, Spooked, and Beverly Hills Cop all rated higher than Dan Dare 3.
Don't even get me started on it.
Ballistics did as well.
Slipping them some cash, I think. I don't know.
It's just weird. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Well, yeah, that's it. What a month. We power through. We've still got, I don't know how long left. Two and a bit years.
Good riddance.
2.5 years worth of magazines yet.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to get better quickly.
Like your optimism.
You're hired.
You are very hired. Right. On that note, we sign off. We know what we've got coming. We've said our stuff at the beginning. Have you got anything else you wish to add, Mr. Raddings?
No, I'm done with February. Thank God it's gone. Let's move on to March and let's see if there's something hopeful there in them there hills.
That 4-pack thing is supposed to be quite good, so I'm holding out hope for them. So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past. We will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zap to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zap to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zap to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.